Right, okay, welcome everybody. We thought we'd just let that Parterac run because it was of interest, so let it run to conclusion. A number of those topics we did cover in the class 2 weeks ago, so check that out on the YouTube channel, or the one before, in fact, it might have been 25 and then 25A, just to cover about Nabab Ma'at Raye, for those who are interested in learning about that, and obviously how it's linked to the dollar bill, and really all of that ties back into cosmology and the way in which, say, we recorded time. But as welcome to say, we are all eyes in Egypt, Midlands, and the North. So we're bringing you Wu-Sabat Outformation classes here in the UK, obviously broadcasting out to the world, so people all over the world on this call. So thank you for joining. And for those on Facebook Live, if you do want to interact with us on the Zoom platform, feel free to join us. If not, feel free to stay on Facebook Live. So we are the United Sabians worldwide, but this is brought to you by a local organisation within that, All Eyes in Egypt, Midlands and the North. And we're talking today about the proof by way of Nabab Yaanuwn. In fact, it's part 25B, because we're trying to close this particular set of classes out today. So a few more slides. We was going to do a recap quiz. We'll see how far we get with that today. So if those were fearing any exam questions today, you might escape it, depending on how the class evolves. Okay, because we've been running for a minute, I'm assuming the sound and everything is okay. And so we'll open the class by way of Partakyud. So a cultural expression, as we, or if you just join us for the first time, nothing to necessarily fear or be afraid of. We are Sabians, are known as Musbatu, or Nawapian, some refer to us as also. And one of the things that our master teacher, Dr. Malachi KZ York, or Kran, has brought back to us in the renewal of our story is our own language. So it's about us, obviously, as you touched on a little bit in the Parterac there, reconnecting, realigning with natural nature, and more importantly, our ancestors, be it our physical ancestors, which they call in the language Muslafu, yeah, so our physical ancestors in our 4 generations, and then our extraterrestrial or etheric ancestors, higher ancestors, known as the Panatharu, which translates into overseers, and they are depicted or shown as suns. Yeah, so we had just happened to be the terrestrial representation of that, and we were connected, obviously, naturally, having an energy or etheric link, which we're going to explore in today's class as well. But more importantly, our vibrational rate within natural nature was on a certain etheric range between 7 and 9 ether range, and our language and the way we express ourselves in tones helps us to stay within that range. So because we are disconnected in this day and time, obviously the reintroduction, of our language not only provides a unifying mechanism for us to come back together as a people, both mentally and physically, but it also helps us to realign back with natural nature and connect with our ancestors, so that we're speaking on the same connecting tones. Understood? So with that, we're going to start off the class by giving you an example of that very important affirmation referred to as Partakyud. All of this is under the badge of positive thinking. So we'll say in Sabaic first and then translate that into English for everybody for full understanding. Barur, 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 Nabab, Nathar, Muqtar. Ut Muqdad, Baded, Pata, Ut Mukhlas, Baded, Yaanuwn. Partakyud. Anuki Jawef Pa Ashuk Empa Paut Kalal Ashuk Kawun Jawef Nea Anuki Kasam Un Empa Paut Wu Pa Paut Kawun Kasam Un Empea Anuki Wahu Ameh Pa Paut Wu Pa Paut Kawun Wahu Ameh Nea Nakuk Kadur Najuk Ameh Kasam Un Empa Paut Wu Habub Ameh Mushakhas Nakuk Adur Kawan Kalel Pafef Nakuk Arud Jawef Pa Paut Ameh Wase Ameh Aradni Kawun Lake Laye Bakoe Jawef Pa Paut Anuki Abed Biye Nafashni Pa Paut Kawun Anuki Pa Paut Kadur Nakuk Kadur Pa Paut Amul Nakuk Amul. Okay, so that was a Partakyud, the affirmation. So we'll translate that into English. So we said, Holy, 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 Master, Overseer, Almighty, no God except Ptah, no Savior except Yaanuwn. The affirmation. I am in the divine love, inside the divine love of the all expanding, and all divine love is inside me. I am a part of the all expanding, and the all expanding is a part of me. I am one as the all expanding, and the all expanding is one as me. I can succeed as a part of the all expanding and fail as an individual person. I can be all that I wish in the all expanding, as long as my wish is to stay in the all expanding. I am never by myself. The all expanding is, I am. The all expanding can, I can. The all expanding does, I do. Yeah, so that was Partak Yud, the affirmation, so brought to you in the Sabaic language, known today as Mispatia, and it's gone through various evolutions as our story renews itself in this new 24,000 year cycle. So if you just join us on the Zoom platform for the first time, this is an interactive session, so it's a class. If to ask questions for your understanding or interest today in the science of Wu-Sabat, dealing with factual information, new spirituality for this day and time, and the spiritual science of the Negroid or African or Black people. Not only in this day and time, it is our spiritual science per se, which unfortunately long lost to us and not known to the world, or those who did have an inkling that there was a spiritual science that applied to the different races, obviously kept that knowledge secret or away from us to maintain their power base of position of exploitation. So we see here that you've got a menu set of options here on your toolbar. So if you need to adjust your audio settings for any reason, then obviously you've got the option here on the left hand side. To interact in a non-question way, so if you want to give feedback or whatever in the chat, etc., then do so. If it's not questions, there's also reaction buttons and things of that nature, so things touch you in a certain way. Feel free to use those within the class accordingly, both on Zoom, and there are separate ones obviously clearly on Facebook Live for those on that platform. Select everyone as a distribution option so that everybody can see what you are saying. And then, so that's one way to interact. And then to way to ask questions. So if you want to come through live, simply press the raise your hand button, and the facilitators will help you then by calling out your name or part of your name there, and then this message will appear on your screen if you've joined us online, and you simply unmute yourself and you come through and ask your question today to myself as the student teacher hosting today's session, and I'll do my best to answer it. And if you've dialed in, then those options are slightly different. So it's *9 to raise your hand, and then *6 to unmute yourself. In both instances, once you've asked your question, if you mute yourself back after the interaction has finished, that's just not to disturb the rest of the call with any background noise. The next way, if you do not want to come through live, then you press the Q&A button, and that basically you can type your question in, and as I say, one of the facilitators will ask that question on your behalf. Yeah, so there's two ways to interact. Don't sit there in ignorance. If something's not making sense or it's not clear, say spark some interest or whatever, then by all means feel free to ask the question to spark the emotion. Okay, so if we get to the recap quiz section in this class, then that is what this slide relates to. So we do have quizzes at certain points to test people's knowledge, and as I say, so something that you can go away with and start to retain, and maybe even each one teach one, teach others and spread the good news, as we call it in this day and time. Okay, I'm going to do a short introduction on who we are, so as we sort of cover it a little bit in some pages of the proof that we're covering today. So we go into a bit of the master teacher's story, history, our story, in terms of records of its purpose and how we got here in a few ways. So I'm not going to go into it in loads of detail for this one. Suffice to say, as I say, the founder of our organisation is Dr. Malachi Z. Kabini York, born June 26, 1945 in West Africa, a place called Takoradi, a coastal area in Ghana, West Africa, and of the Akan tribes in Ghana, so a series of tribes who are matriarchal as opposed to patriarchal, so their lineage, many of their culture, succession, etc., goes through the female line, like natural nature does in its own right. Yes, you have to have a daughter to carry on your lineage, so that lineage is superior in terms of succession arrangements and things of that nature. So within those tribes, the Iwe tribe, EWE, is where on his mother's side, that's where he gets his Ghanaian heritage from, by way of a sacred feminine known as Mary Abba Akran-York. We are also matriarchal, as the ancient Egyptians were, and obviously the original, which we all descend from, the Sands people down in South Africa. Our foundation is matriarchal, and Wu-Sabat, as a spiritual science in the language, is feminine in origin also. So Mary Abba Akran-York, known as Fatima Miriam, as we can see, the anniversary of her birthday is coming up in a few weeks' time. So March 10th, she was born 1929 and transitioned over to the other side in August the 4th, 2012. Interesting date as well. So from sacred masculine point of view, sorry, let me just touch upon this, always sort of mention it as well. So this symbol really for all to notice, but particularly maybe sacred feminine or females on the call. So the lotus flower, again, associated with regeneration, and since associated with the female, as I say, the lotus, a flower in and of itself, insofar as I suppose it mimics the behavior in nature, has the characteristics of a sun that appears on Earth to somebody who's looking up into the night sky to rise and set. This is obviously symbolic within our culture of those four positions, isn't it? Atunre, Amunre, and Anunre. So the four in one cycle that we see, obviously, experience obviously as human beings on the planet, the surface of the planet, where the sun appears to rise in the morning, then it's its strongest point at noon. It appears then to set at the end of the day, and then in the period of night, it goes into a period where we can feel it, but we can't see it. So, and this is obviously the four-in-one principle that you find obviously in the sacred feminine. Also, is that a woman can be a woman, a daughter, a mother, and a grandmother. Understood? So the four-in-one principle, which is, let's say, one of the sciences within that our ancestors have left coded into natural nature, obviously, that we see as part of the illusion within the matrix, and as I say, very important. We also, remember, we are factologists, we are numerologists, and we are ontologists as well. So we're interested in the science of numbers as part of the attributes of being a sapien in this day and time. So, from his father's side, touched upon the Sudanese heritage there, I think, as you was listening to in the Tarak, when we recalled Nubian Islamic Hebrews, I suppose still are to some degree. Um, and that was linking in the Islamic side, obviously linking into the Sudanese part of our story. Um, yeah, link us back into Napata, Meroe, pre-dynastic, as they record it, ancient Egypt. Yes, and this by way of Hadi Abdul Rahman al Mahdi, the Master Teacher's father, links us into that Sudanese heritage. I've said this a few times, but we'll be doing a class on this part, or I'll be doing a class, and there'll be other teachers teaching throughout the year. So I'll be doing a class on this, Pa Hadayan, the guidance, so we can unpick that Islamic journey and its tie back into ancient Egypt and ancient Africa, linked into that. Obviously, there's a lot of mess in that religion in terms of history of slavery and kidnapping of our people. But before it was poisoned, there's a route back, and so we unpick that obviously within our story also. So as you can see there, the name Asaid is obviously particularly special, but ties back in obviously, giving great credence to Sayyid al-Hadi Abdul Rahman al-Mahdi, his father Sayyid Abdul Rahman al-Mahdi, and probably more famous out of all, excluding probably the master teacher himself, but Sayyid Muhammad Ahmad al-Mahdi, known as the Mahdi, born 1845 to 1885, you understand? So transitioned in 1885, or recorded as disappeared, you understand? So a serious spiritual master, they call him a karama, you understand? That's an Arabic term for a spiritual master who certainly was able to manipulate the forces of nature, which we refer to as supernatural or black magic. You understand? He had control of that and utilized that to great effect, let's say, to drive foreign invaders, the British and the Turks in particular, out of Africa. Understood? So we'll get into that, as I say, throughout the year, so that you've got a better understanding of the link into that side, which was, was touched upon in that Tarak, and is a term that you'll probably start to see more often as certain terms like Nubian nation come back around again. Nubian Islamic Hebrew, so in some of the newer scrolls and newer books in the hereafter doctrine, you'll see links back into that story again. But as always, in the way in which the master teacher himself, and this is him at age 25, when we were in the religious degrees, and the combination of himself and being known as El Khadir were delivering the solution at that particular date and time, giving us the religious information known as, I suppose, the truth in that regard. Truth could be true in a certain degree, doesn't necessarily make it actual facts, but it's true in a certain degree. And the point being made is that we've gone through various different schools, but each time we've come back around, almost to say, like you see the sun appears to rise and set, moving in the same cycle and direction. So if you think about it in the context of those solar movements, the sun as it appears to rise is known as what? Atumre, in a sense, or right knowledge stage. The sun at the noon is known as Atunreye, at the noon stage, and that would be right wisdom. And then we see excuse me, and then the sun as it appears to set as Amun-Re would be a right overstanding. Do you understand? And then leading to a state, obviously, of Wu-Sabat. You understand? So leading to a state of or sound right reasoning, some would reference, and that's obviously within the darkness of Anun-Re. You understand? So because we came from that state, or the blackness or the darkness, understood, where this society obviously likes to focus on the light. So some of those terminologies are coming back around again. So don't be surprised to see those in that regard as we step it up even to another level, which in this day and time is referred to in Wu-Sabat science scientifically as, excuse me, moving from is moved from to something called cyclical evolution. Understood? So we're moving around in a circle like a spiral, where we're going back over the same things, but obviously at a higher level. So linear progression to cyclical evolution, known as quantum physics. Understood? So different subjects are coming back around again, but at a higher level, obviously linking you back into not only excuse me, our ancient Egypt past, into the sands people, but taking us in and beyond the stars. Understood? So in our story, in our culture, every 24,000 years, being known as the Amun Nabab Reye Haptar comes back around again to renew our story. The ancient Egyptians referred to that being as Tahuti. Yeah, there's many different names in different cultures, understood, in relation to our story as opposed to his story. But many religions worldwide, secret societies, etc., are expecting this individual to come back. But it's more famously known within our culture as the source of that and the renewal, obviously, of our story, because obviously we've fallen away from that which we not only were but are supposed to be according to natural nature's design. So these combinations, I won't go through in great detail, but as I say, were necessary, as I say, to rid us of the spell that was obviously not only cast on our people, but a sickness, as I say, that plagued our minds mentally, our perception of the world in and around us. And so not only were we not seeing things the way they were supposed to be, but obviously we were fooled and still are fooled today, where our energies are being redirected, as I say, to empower forces that work against us, i.e. forces of six ether, ghostational ether, insofar as that which powers dead and dead forces that must subsist off of living forces in order to survive. We'll explore that, as I say, further in this class as we step. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to jump into the class today. Let's get into the subject matter. It's got a little bit of reading to do to finish off these last few pages that we're focused on, at least, not the whole pages of the book. I think we've probably covered maybe 10% of the book in these 25 classes. So check that out, as I say, in your local All Eyes on Egypt store. I think we will be ourselves trying to make it easy for you to get books connected to these classes. So have patience with us over the next few months. You'll see us make that easier for you to do so. But on the website, UnitedSapiensWorldwide.com, there's a store there, or you can look up where your local store is. And so if you're interested in the books that we're referring to in these classes, then check those out from your local store. Yeah, much more than we can convey in the few hours that we're teaching every month. Yeah, so one-to-one with you and your master teacher. Okay, so we were, let's say, looking at a few pages. I think we started from here, and we were looking at some of the inner meaning or hidden meaning in some of these hieroglyphic symbols. As you can see here, even in the symbol for water, there's so many ways, and what symbols can mean. Of course, they can mean thousands of meanings to different people, but we're interested in what we are talking about, our culture and our story when it comes to these matters in particular. So I think we had ended up around about this particular page here. Yeah, so for those joining us in that regard. So I'm probably going to be jumping around a little bit just to help us get through these verses and understand what we're talking about in that regard. So if you're just jumping in for the first time or whatever, feel free to ask questions, because it will force us then to go back and polarize or focus what we're doing to help you get some understanding. But if not, so previous classes are on YouTube in all its glory, so go and check those out if necessary, make notes accordingly. So let's just, we'll start from 397. I think we're in a bit further, but we'll start from 397. So it's saying, so in fact, sorry, before I go, any questions?
No questions.
Okay, great. Okay. So 397. So in fact, all waqut, time, and bara'ah, space, all matter is universal ether, a combination of all elements and all nawa'u, kinds of existence that can become nashat energy and have become energy to the degree that can be at any given point on the circle of Nadam, order for this planet. Understood? So not to go back over that in loads of detail, but there is obviously a clock. I say obviously, but there's a clock called the SMAT circle. Do you understand? Or space, matter, and time. SMAT, SMAT. Yeah, space, matter, and time. These are three of the principal elements needed for existence, and we monitor or have a system that it's been taught to us of how in ancient times and even to today how we monitor growth within existence. You understand? And more particularly, this the ascension and declination of 9 ether into 6 ether into 3 ether, and then how it revolves again. So as we've explained before, that they use the word evolution, but as you understand, it was touched upon in the Patriarch, they were only given a certain amount of our universal information. Yeah, so 3 degrees out of the original 9. In fact, 2 degrees, they created their own fake version of the 3rd degree. Yeah, so 2 degrees out of the original 9. So they only have part of a story, or they're certainly their ancestors only have part of the story, and a lot of that knowledge obviously has been lost today when they burned down, because that's their MO. They burned down certain great libraries, for example, in Alexandria, burnt down those knowledge centers, which had, as I say, thousands of years of outformation come into us in the form of information recorded, which no doubt would have benefited the world today, a much greater link to our past and history. But as you know, for them to establish themselves as the authority on this planet, they sought to wipe out all of those knowledge and information sources, as you can see with the devastating bombing of Iraq, or over bombing of Iraq. You can argue whether the war of Saddam Hussein and all of that is justified, but the bombing of a lot of the ancient artifacts, ancient sites, looting, which caused or led to the looting of many of those artifacts, is because the real story of their history is contained within there. Understood? So to maintain the kind of monotheistic religious myths all over the world, then you can't have information sources, obviously, that they would prefer not to have these information sources that obviously take you back into prehistory, and certain facts obviously surrounding that. So as you can see in the symbol of the, not the Statue of Liberty, its proper name is the Stature of Liberty. Yeah, the woman is holding the fire in her hand. As we see now, we're in a leap year, as they have it, the Olympic year. And what they will do, isn't it, is they will run that torch with various marathon runners around the planet, understood, yeah, to symbolize the rings of Saturn, which to them is the 6th planet, obviously from the sun, symbolizing obviously those forces and those beings of that force, understood. But the point is that fire is used obviously to destroy, in the way their use of it. They use it to burn down, as I say, knowledge sources that go against their ability to be the authors, in a sense, and then become the authority, have enough authors to become the authority, and then decide what is or what is not authentic. So that's coming back around to say there's a measuring tool for us to record, as I say, the growth or development of ether as it goes through various different cycles, and how it affects life forms within the universal environment. So to go from 9 to 6 ether, because 9 ether, all combination of all existing gases in nature, the most powerful force in that regard, becomes in death becomes 6 ether. 6 ether becomes in death becomes ghostational ether, understood. And to go through that cycle in its totality takes around about 72 million years, Understood? So, excuse me, known as the say circle of space, matter, and time, or the SMAP circle. So this is what it's giving reference to here. Why are we interested in that? Well, because in when we understand the science of Wu-Sabat, remember we explained this last time. You cannot generate something from nothing. Understood? Yeah. So as they understand the word nothing to me. Understood? But what we're talking about here is that effectively on this side of matter, everything derives from energy. So it derives from the world of things. Understood? So from things, or when we say nothing, it just means to describe that things don't have an atomic weight. Understood? Yeah, because they're just by modern day measurements of instrumentation, they don't have a weight, but they still exist. Understood? And this is the energy realm, which basic existence is made up of most of that. So 90% of existence, as you are familiar with already, or maybe familiar with in these classes, yeah, 76% of that 90% is made up of dark energy, 24% is made up of dark matter. Understood? And then those energies power or transition over into what we are referring to as physical matter. Understand? So in Wu-Sabat, we classify that state of energy as energy. Between dark matter and dark energy, we refer to as energy matter or energy material. And then when it comes over to the other side of hydrogen, to 99 elements, then we might refer to it as matter energy. Understood? So it's important that you understand in our culture, inverse is used in symbols, inverse is used in the language to show the juxtaposition. Do you understand? But it all matters to us. Yeah, because so we span the whole of the spectrum, but you have to understand, as I say, what is taking place, or the cause and effect. Understood? And so that means understand the darkness, because there's so much focused on the light, but their light is really fire. You understand? As you see, they use it to destroy those knowledge sources, as I say, that reveal the truth about who they are. So it allowed them to establish, what is ghostational attributes or characteristics, lies, mythology. Do you understand? And obviously coupled with the fact that the brain of the those Mukasu, was limited, as I say, because of something referred to as the designer gene, DUF1220, where it used obviously Anunnaki genes, Pleiadian genes, but also simian genes, which limited the brain capacity, understood, to that of a chimpanzee, which is around about the age of a 13-year-old child. So when you look at those numbers, 999, for example, it's the perfect number is 1000, excuse me, symbolized by the number M, tying back into the female, you understand, the megawatt. Yeah, so M, as the races are 999 mental capacity out of 1000, Dravidian 666 out of 1000. Then when you get down to the Caucasian, 333 out of 1000. So this is it's not racism in wrong racism, do you understand, or superiorism or anything of that nature. Just dealing with facts, understood. So this is why we have a world today which is based on very childish or childlike behaviors. Quick to war, quick to fight, rather than resolve. We see a proliferation of sort of Marvel movies and things of that nature. Yeah, superhero fuses. People arguing about big men arguing about Star Wars. A black person gets cast in the role, they lose their minds. Yeah, big people, 40 or 50, understand, always buying models of this and that, understand, console games, all that type of thing is all. Not saying you can't do none of that stuff. So before people start tripping out, but yeah, it's all childlike behaviors as adults. So the growth of the world, to some degree, has been stunted because we're in the minds of the ruling party at the moment, which is a Caucasian male, also in particular. That's why change is needed to realign the world back to natural nature. So we should be much further along than what we should be thus far. So we can see here on 398, it's number 24. As you can see, in 24,000 genomes, 24 hours in a day, and shadow hours 24,000 mile circumference of this planet, 24,000 year equinox, all based on you genetically and this planet that you were transported to from Orion and Sirius in the Dolphin, who has 44 chromosomes, another even number. Then planted in the Maye water, where you grew and developed before being cast onto land by a great tsunami caused by a great meteorite crashing into the Indian Ocean and South Atlantic Oceans. Yeah, so this is starting to obviously explain to us our story. We've gone over this in some detail, so we'll revisit this in that regard. So we have a phase in the waters of this planet referred to as the Ogdoad phase, recorded in two sets of, four sets of two. You understand? Eight, yeah, 8 pairs, each representing a genetic shift. You understand? After what was it can be described as an extinction level event. Yeah, in fact, one of those some 70,250,000 years ago wiped out the dinosaurs on this planet, seeking to bring a balance really between, I suppose, those carnivores as the great lizards who were eating, overeating, various different life forms on the planet, including human beings, and sought really to bring some balance back to the planet. So they took a number of those species out, yeah, so to allow humanoid life to flourish. So these stages represent, as I say, us really in the waters of this planet, as planted there. The word dolphin means womb, so it was used to transport us from other star constellations, and those cells were placed in the waters here, allowing us to evolve in the waters. So the original mermen and merwomen of the planet Earth. And let's say a few classes ago, we've gone into that in some detail, and showed you some proof around that. And even as I say, if you look at the Khoisan language, of the some of the tribes in Southern Africa, particularly the Sands people, etc., a clicking language, and you match that against the way dolphins communicate today, who have a brain, in fact, larger than human beings, or certainly similar size to human beings, and so very intelligent, highly intelligent, um, race or set beings on the planet today. You see that the language is very similar. Understood? So, so showing that showing that link there. Okay, so let's crack on. So 399. This again was not done by chance or blind faith. This was intelligent design by intelligent designers. 400. As you read the Ogdoads, 8 beings for octaves of sound, the secret 8, all based on the Shannon circle of Nabab order, and this means that ether is liquid source, gas source, life source. Understood? So ether denoting, say, not only energy, but the means or mechanism, for energy to be able to be transferred from one location to another. So energy in motion, or to have emotions, or energy in motion, or to allow or to facilitate that, we need different types of ether to move energy from one location to another. So when existence was ready to or things were ready to grow out of existence, then, let's say, stillness out of motion, certain ether is the means or mechanism to allow that growth to take place. Yeah, so 401, natural ether universe. Ether exists in degrees, or 360 degrees of life and 360 degrees of death. Yeah, so 360 cycles of lives, 360 degree cycles of deaths, making it 720 degrees of spiritual and physical, which is what you as individuals are seeking to achieve or attain. So it's become 720 once again. Understand? Certainly, once you've mastered, or the mastery of this realm, so mastery of the physical life, mastery of the physical, obviously here will make you whole again, insofar as the real university of this environment. So today you go to university and you come out with obviously 1 degree, but in the real universities, this is what you were preparing for. Do you understand? Remember, uh, death is a doorway to forever. Do you understand? So, being birth is a doorway to a limited life. Understood? But really and truly, as I say, we're at the point of death. Our ancestors who exist in that dark state, for lack of a better word, then you know, they see where they are as life and where where we are as death. When you are born, you are destined to die. Do you understand? So to us, in actuality, we would look at where they are as the past, for example. So we think, obviously, because they're older, obviously much older than us in terms of our ancestors and their generations, etc., from the perspective where we are looking from, understood, it would appear that they would be in the past, understood. But in actuality, if you look at how universes expand, obviously, and develop, so obviously everybody on this call and wider, or listens to this call, listen to this class, will understand that in actuality, you are the center, you understand, of the universe, obviously to you. So you are at the center of the universe, in that, obviously in that context. And however, um, when we think about existence in totality, you understand, from the point, let's say, if you picked a point in time for the purpose of this, yeah, 76 trillion years ago, you understand, when that first expansion started, as universes, different types have expanded, of course, and grown outwards. If you looked at it on a circle, for example, we at this particular point in time would be at the outer edges, you understand, or certainly much further out from that original expansion point. Yes, some 76 trillion years ago, if we had to give it a date. So that point in the center is in actuality the present, yeah, where we are, obviously, at those outer edges would be the past to that event. You understand? And then when it contracts back in, that would be what we would be referring to as the future. You understand? And so one of the interesting things, or the characteristics of the being known as Yaanuwn in this day and time, known as the master teacher, the incarnated master, the 19th elder, is this ability to see in this dual fashion. Do you understand? Outside of the context of you being everything revolving around yourself, understood, is the ability to see, understood, from the observable universe is what we're looking at it from, and then the reality of where things emanated from. So be able to see sort of past, present, and future in one. In some referred to some in some cases being double-sighted. You understand? So you can see in both of their directions, and obviously the interest is to stop us, obviously, who are heading as a race of people heading towards a point of self-destruction, understood, and reversing that by trying to alter the past. So if we can change our behaviors in what we are referring to as the now, then it can alter our future. You understand? Somebody, obviously, say somebody, but the they, you understand, Mukasu, whatever you want to refer to it as, the interception, obviously, into the genes, into the genetics, to try and mess up those spiritual links. Yeah, it's introduced, in a sense, self-destructive behaviors into the Nagaru gene, Nagaru mindset and thinking. So we're a Nagaru insofar as we are the inner image and likeness of the overseers, our Natharu, but thinking in the mindset of the Caucasian. Do you understand? Which is obviously unnatural nature. So therefore, heading towards a path of self-destruction if we don't alter our behaviors. You understand? Either in this generation to force that change. You understand? That revolutionary change in future generations. You understand? So obviously, our children are clearly the future of our race in that context. And if we don't change our mindset and realign our minds to realign with true mind, then we're heading towards a path of self-destruction. So here we can see that it's dealing with the fact that we've got these two forces juxtaposition. It's understanding, you You understand? Obviously, this kind of situation we find ourselves in of one ascending, one declining, the other ascending, the other declining. Do you understand? So in this cyclical kind of flow, yeah, at one time we didn't have this sort of up and down that we are experiencing right now throughout these these 24,000 year cycles. You understand? And so one of the things is to break out of that particular point in time, so we're not subject ever again to where we lost our link to the mental. So 402, 9 ether and 6 ether. 9 ether is positive ether and 6 ether is negative ether. 403, 9 ether and 6 ether are opposites in absolute nature and they alternate existing. They can both exist at the same time, such as living and dying of a person who is terminally ill with a disease. In this case, both living and dying at the same time. So also positive and negative can be in a person at the same time. Each waits its turn to come forth, or a person who is sick and can die and is then healed. Yeah, so clearly you're starting to understand. To us, of course, one would see and say, okay, well, 6 ether in and of itself, of course, would be seen as adverse to 9 ether. But ultimately, the reason why you're learning about it is to have, control. Obviously, both of them exist in us in a similar vein. And interesting enough, as we've expressed before, 9 really symbolically represents mind. The 6 ether side of us, or the 6th side of us, really represents body. Do you understand? So we can see here in both of those, they are opposite to each other because the body wants to oftentimes return back to the various sources where it came from, primarily the ground. Do you understand? And the soul is seeking to return to where it came from. So within even those two characteristics of us we have to manage that. You understand? As an individual, yeah. And so the 9 really must dominate or rule the 6. If not, then 6 ether destructive behaviors, which we call, recreation, or some refer to, particularly in this society, as having fun. Yeah, we tend to do destructive things because maybe we feel that we want to do it. You understand? And so we're living by the body more so, not by the mind, and can find yourself in difficult situations if we're living by those physical desires. Not to say that we're not supposed to experience fun, you understand, have sex, different things of that nature. But when we're led by those things, you can find yourself in particularly hot water if you're not making or deploying, self-protective, self-preserving behaviors in that regard. So anything, obviously, in an excessive way can be detrimental. But there are some things that, whether even in excess, if you find yourself in a club and sleep with somebody that you don't really know too tough anything about them, do you understand, that it's sort of inner workings of them, then what can you end up with? You can end up with AIDS on the first time around. You might have even had sex before, and you can end up with AIDS first time. You understand? You could end up pregnant first time. You understand? You can end up getting somebody pregnant first time. Yeah. So if certain things within the decisions that we're making, obviously, and we take off certain controls and barriers, i.e. the firewall, let's say, that's protecting us from viruses, then our lives can be inherently more difficult than they would have been had we made different types of decisions. You understand? So importantly, as it says in the Mind Scroll, you understand that human beings must learn that his and her life is his or her own responsibility. So we're a product certain times of the decisions that we're making, but heavily, you have to understand, because of our nature, heavily influenced by internal and external forces. So once you understand what those are, then obviously you can, one would expect, I'm going to use the word hope, that's 6 ether, but one would certainly expect that you can, if you're informed, you're going to make better decisions. You understand? Obviously, the issue is that we were not informed, or what we were informed by was not suited to not only the way we think, but our growth journey or our evolutionary or ascension journey of what we are supposed to be coming into. And so you're not growing into an imitation of another race to progress their society. That's not to say that one can't be a productive member of society, but that's not necessarily our true purpose and why we're here in this day and time and beyond. Understood. So importantly, yeah, positive and a negative exist. It's us understanding these forces in greater detail. That's why they keep coming back around again. And actually, if you look at the Nine Boss, I looked at a publication of that in 1971, all the way going back, or it was in a republication because it was released originally in the 60s. It goes into this again in some great detail. So understanding these forces is part of reversing out the spiritual ignorance, which is part of the spell. 404. The positive nine controls and supports the living, and the negative 6 supports and controls the dead. They're dead spectres, ghosts, spirits, and orbs, which you were listening about in that Partarak. Yeah. 405. A living being is dying scientifically when its life-giving chemicals are not sufficient enough to maintain positive flow, or the vibrational khatat body becomes unclean, poisoned, out of sync, unbalanced. Yeah, so this is a heavy verse. Yes, Sam. 405 and 406, heavy verses here. You understand? Because scientifically, yeah, what this is saying is basically, if you are not if you use more energy than you are generating, understood? Yeah, then effectively you are in a state of dying. Understand? Now, and then interesting enough, when we think about I'm not sure share on the screen, but if you went into something like ChatGPT or Copilot, these are this sort of new AI software, and you put in a question, for example, and said, how is the energy of the body measured? Yeah. Typically in this society, they're going to say, okay, well, the energy of the body is measured by calories. Yeah. So the metabolic processes of how we transform food into usable energy and store it and how it's used is called calories, isn't it? And then our ability to burn calories is referred to as our metabolic, or our ability to burn is our metabolism, they describe it as, and then how efficiently you burn them, I suppose, is referred to as your metabolic rate or base metabolic rate in that regard. Yes. However, what it doesn't factor in is bioelectricity, isn't it? So your body is generating electricity, and there are a number of different processes which we're not factoring in this society at least, when we consider energy. Now, it may be of interest that why don't they want to teach people about bioelectricity? Well, it's obviously known about because clearly different races process bioelectricity or generate energy in different ways, in a sense, and obviously some much more efficiently, and some, it would highlight the fact that some beings, obviously on this planet, do not have sun heat genes, for example. Yeah, so sun heat genes, excuse me, through not only bioelectrical processes, but our use and ability to process ether in the form of air. Yeah, those sun heat genes, excuse me, once fueled, you understood, by the chemicals that we take in through the original pyramid, our nose, from air, those sun heat genes obviously burn within our, obviously, bones and bloodstream, and forces the skin, obviously, to change, yeah, or react chemically. So we're burning black. Yeah, we're burning black. Yeah, obviously, when you die or you stop breathing or taking in that form of ether, of course, then obviously clearly your body reverts back to a more transparent type skin tone when we're dead. You understand? Or the body is physically dead, or we're not breathing. Doesn't mean we are from a soul point of view dead, but from a physical body point of view, we are dead. So in a society, say we've got calories that they measure by, but they don't factor in, yes, the bio electrical processes as part of that. So if you think about it, you take in a certain amount of calories, let's say, based on your, that's how they calculate it, based on your size, your weight, whatever, your height, so on and so forth. And they might say, but you need 2,600 calories per day. You understand? Now, if you end up having too much calories, you understand, or you're carrying too much weight for your size, then what you need to do, you need to, if there's a 2,600 to maintain your current structure, well, you need to reduce those calories down. And if you do that on a consistent basis, then you're going to reduce your weight. That's what they say, isn't it? But what's it referred to as? So to reduce the amount of energy that one is using versus what one has in storage or is generating is referred to as a diet. Yeah, diet. Yeah, so we can see here that to reduce that weight, you are, as this definition is giving us, isn't it? We are having to reduce down, understand, the the energy output and storage, and taking less than what we would require to be living on a daily basis to reduce down the amount we have in storage, because obviously it may be that we've overeaten, we've become obese, understood? So we're reducing down the storage in there, the excess, you understand, to get it back in balance and in a more healthy state, understood? So, we talked, so you're dying if as I say, you are, in this context, if you don't have enough energy to maintain, understand, these only a physical structure, but also the link that we have to the mental. So if we go on 406, that it's going to explain that. The other definition there is showing us how we become sick and why the spiritual practices or the spiritual aerobics are important, because basically if we become out of alignment, many of our processes, we understand, so we have conscious control, or voluntary systems within the body, and we have involuntary systems within the body that and because it's linked, understood, to etheric beings who are controlling many of the functions within our body. So if you think of it, heart rate, blood flow, things like that, you're not consciously controlling those things. You understand? You're linked into certain states of knowledge, understood, or etheric beings or processes within a certain frequency range. And as our body sort of links into them, it knows is triggered or of how to operate and how to maintain these forces. It's receiving etheric instructions to maintain these processes. You understand? So although you're here physically, you're linked in, much like your sort of router that you may be using to access, not take router, but whether you're on a phone or on a device, you understand, there's a mechanism obviously that's connecting you into the internet, which is driving certain processes, in addition to you typing into the browser and saying, I want to go onto this website, go onto that. There are many things happening in the background because it's tied in terms of the internet, of this information or data exchange, you understand, within a wider global system. So you're locked into those things which have been driven, let's say, by sort of etheric beings, which renders you an etheric being, because you have an etheric sort of umbilical cord that's locked in and it's being fed and driving the involuntary aspects, obviously, of you or your operations. Now, you need a certain amount of energy to maintain that link. Yeah, and so if your sort of glands, you understand, an energy center in the body become out of sync, then we become sick. Yeah, and so one of the things, obviously, of maintaining yeah, that balance or sinking in, particularly in the type of environment that we're in, is part of your positive thinking. Do you understand? Or they fall under the badge of positive thinking. You know, prayer coupled with meditation, proper diet, for example, is a sufficient amount of water to maintain systems within the body, and obviously positive thinking overall. You understand? Fasting as well could be included within that. You understand? So you can see all these help maintain, yeah, a certain balance if we become, you know, over in one area or insufficient in another area. Yeah, particularly fasting. And now I would say a lot of people being given credit, let's say, for intermittent fasting because they've put it through an academic route, and this was all being explained to you in the 60s and 70s. That's why when you see maybe a lot of Sabians, if they followed those instructions that were being given to them, they maybe don't look as haggard, maybe, or the world has not killed them. You understand, with age on their skin or the way they look at, and so on and so forth. In that way, as difficult as it is to maintain those disciplines within this society. Understood? But you can see some people look their age, some people look a lot younger than their age. You understand? So the body will take a lot of battering before it starts to make noise and complain. Now, in 406 says the ability to keep a positive flow of mental and physical fluids, of etheric standards and qualities and values of Fatira, natural nature, and protect the being from physical death continuously, as in the case of scientific life. So, as I say, we've got this scientific definition of what it means to be in a state of dying. Yes. And interesting enough, I think we were talking about this in some previous classes. I did an exercise with just jumping into this AI to see, well, what scientific studies have been done on the impact of racism or wrong racism on the human being. And so if you put this question in Copilot or whatever, it sort of throws up a number of studies that have been done over the years, particularly. And interesting enough, there's a causational link between racism and discrimination and its impact on mental health and its impact on physical health. Understood? Yep. So the fact of the matter is that some of you on this call have known life without racism. You understand? In the environments that we've found ourselves within. And you know that 24% of your DNA, after 100% of it, 24% of it is in a transient state. So it's affected by the environment that you find yourself in. Do you understand? So therefore, something in the atmosphere, so this 6 ether force in the atmosphere is attacking your very being on a daily basis. Do you understand? If you are living in an adverse or wrong racism environment. You understand? Because what this is expressing to you is that your body is going to generate a certain amount of energy. Understood? Yes. And if you're able to use less, you understand? Yeah. So if you're able to use less or equal to what is being generated, then you're in the range of what is called living. If you use more than what is being generated, do you understand? In a healthy way, or you're being depleted in that regard, you understand? So then you're going to be in a state of dying, you understand? So we need to maintain. This is why everything, the characteristics, when they talk about the characteristics of the incarnated elders exhibited in some point by the master teacher himself, or people who've been around him, and say, well, one of the characteristics of the elders is they maintain a positive mindset. You understand? They're not kumbaya guys or women for no, we're not giving that impression, but they maintain a positive mind state even in difficult situations. You understand? A positive mind state in difficult situations. So you must protect your positivity, your mental energy. Do you understand? Even in difficult situations, because what you're doing is, as it's expressing here, you're protecting your ability to live. Yeah, by maintaining a certain energy level or output, which obviously there naturally, but as we said, can be affected by environmental factors. So racism in and of itself, yeah, which it's classified, or we classified it more correctly, obviously as a disease. You understand? Yeah, but it causes, impacts the mind. So therefore, if it impacts the mind, what's it doing? It's messing with what? This positive flow of energy that you need to receive to maintain that link. Yeah, you need that positive energy to maintain that link. A certain amount of energy is required to maintain the link. Yeah, as well as you've got physical energy by way of food, etc., that you utilize to maintain your body physically. But the spiritual part of it, you also need, or the etheric part, you also need to maintain in this life. And there's no focus on that other than what they've given you in religion, which, as we said, remember, you pray the wrong way, you become prey. I can't keep saying it enough. Yeah, so what are they? They're not getting you when you're in a strong state, are you? They're getting you in a weakened state. Yeah, most people find themselves in religion when their life is not going great, because they're in a weakened state. Yeah, they run into that, and so they run into options presented to them by the very forces that are against them. But you don't know that, isn't it? So if we can get them in a weakened state, they're going to go to, my life's not going well because, yeah, I didn't really give that time to Jesus, or I wasn't really being a good Muslim, or I wasn't being all these different things. Understood? Where, scientifically, is that really what's going on? Do you understand? So this information, or you understand the science of life, like you now understand from these classes, yeah, and a book that's coming back out in reprint, Degree of Christism. Yeah, so seek to get that from your local All Eyes in Egypt store when that's back out again. Yeah, because in that book, and we've shared that in these classes, it deals with the science of religion. Yeah, and the science of religion is the interference of the dead into the lives of the living. And we keep saying it to you. I hope you're taking it in, you're listening, whatever the case may be, that the society is set up to exploit you as the true energy generating, energy storage beings on this planet. You understand? Like the sun is to this solar system. Yeah, so we are the descendants, the real or true energy, yeah, coming from that dark matter, dark energy state, flows through, you understand, us, you understand, into this physical environment. Understood? Yeah, so we are the source of the energy. You understand? We are the glue that keeps these universal forces together. You understand? That's hence why we must be here. Yeah, but in your own individual lives, obviously you must maintain, yeah, this positive flow of energy. You understand? Obviously, negativity is there, and we use negativity to defend ourselves. Yeah, shouldn't necessarily be, and that doesn't make us punks or anything of that nature. But you're not using it to drive or fuel, yeah, our liberty. Yeah, our liberty is positive flow. It's not negative flow. You understand? So we want to this is why they say, well, build a psychic self-defense. What's that psychic self-defense? Well, psychic self-defense is to fool the mind, so even in difficult situations, you can still maintain positive thinking. Like the tightrope walker walks across, you understand, it could be whatever, several hundred feet in the air, and is walking across on tightrope, but uses the science of reflection and projection to fool the mind. So as they project outward in his mind, he believes, yeah, or thinks that he's walking on solid ground. And so he's not walking on a few centimeters wide steel rope, whatever the case may be. He's walking on the ground. So the projection outwards, yeah, is that he's walking on the ground. This is a method. It's to psychic self-defense, to maintain, you're lying to self. You're psychic, there's a lying woman, You understand? Yeah, Sai to lie, chick is a slang for a female. Do you understand? So yeah, so you're fooling the mind, yeah, to maintain this positive state. Any questions? Okay.
No, no questions.
Okay. So let's see here. So 407. So nine ether is the original true life and scientifically living linked by the etheric code life to life. Yeah. So this is what we're talking about in terms of what nine ether then is should basically generate. So remember, ether is not only the mechanism or develop the mechanism to allow energy to the medium, excuse me, it's not only the medium to allow energy to transfer from one place to another, but ether, if necessary, will build out the infrastructure necessary to allow this energy to be used by um, uh, to be utilized by beings or other life forms that need to subsist off of that energy. So it's going to build out all of the things necessary and the infrastructure to allow you then to derive that energy as well. That's how intelligent ether is. So it's coded to progress life in this regard, or nine ether. You understand? Will not only provide the energy to sustain life, but also to progress life. Understood? However, six ether is the opposite. You understand? So 408 and six ether is the living dead and death of the scientifically, with their etheric cord cut like the umbilical cord connecting a fetus navel to the placenta. In the same way, the etheric code is connecting the etheric being to the Ba'ah soul, to the Ka'ah spirit, to the Khatat body. So the link, so like the link to the source of physical life, the mother. 409. So also it's cut to separate the two, child from the Mudaltat, mother physically, and once a person's etheric cord is cut, they are separated from the etheric realm of Nashat energy, which links them to the Ba'ah soul. They are on their own emotionally, no link to the oversoul. So we've been sort of making this point, isn't it, that the fact that basically that soul is a link, isn't it? Yeah, this is why a person's soul can be cut off and then be restored again, because it's described obviously as this link here, in that context, in that regard. And here it's saying about this context between the soul, the spirit, and the body. Understood? Now, obviously, as animists, what's important to understand, which we are animists, they had to use the word religion, do you understand, of Wu-Sabat, or way of life, is animism. You understand? So this means that we're operating from that sort of energy state. We believe that or accept, or our viewpoint of the world is that the soul is real. In a sense, so we're operating from that state, particularly as ontologists. And if you let's look and just go back just to make this point even clearer. Let's just get my mouse working. Okay, here we go. So, let's go back to some of the stuff we would have covered in part one. So let's just look at. So you can see here by this definition from Master Secret, Ultimate Reality, for example, yeah, and it says one from verse 115, so Master Secret 12, the Ultimate Reality. Yeah, it says in Wu-Sabat you deal with natural universe science, like scientific information, animism. That is, by all natural phenomena, by Ba'ah, soul, that which is real in Fatar, nature, and your environment. 116. The ontologist animist, the supernatural, is to say that the very natural, not spookinism, is natural nature at its highest or lowest points of existence. 117. The past, present, and the future, all then or then now then. 118. So in fact, supernatural in Wu-Sabat means the higher or highest Sachem power, and black powers called Chemem Magas, black magic of natural nature or of nature, not something of white powers called Leben Magas, white magic. Understood? So the point is here that we are operating, you understand, from the soul, which we are stating here is real in natural nature and the environment. So we're operating from the darkness. We're operating from that energy state. You understand? The world of things, yeah, the world of some things is illusionary to us in that regard. You understand? It is not the real place we're operating from. Now let's try and seek to find this verse in Holy Tablets just to re-emphasize that point. Let's see. We did cover this in a previous class. Let me just see if we can find it. Many thousands of slides, at least 25 parts. So let's see if we can just see where that was. Bear with me a second. Just avert your eyes. This is making sense. I'll fly through these. While I'm looking for that, are there any questions?
No questions at the moment.
So while we're just looking for that, so what we're going to read about in the Holy Tablets in the 7th chapter is the fact that, as I say, that the soul is being described, isn't it, as a projection from the plane of divine reality, understood, down to the spiritual plane, and it's a projection of the mental downwards. Maybe we have found this. As you can see, we've got a lot of subject here. Okay, really almost there. Okay, I'll look for that. That's what I'm supposed to explain. So it's a projection down, yeah, of the mental plane from that full state of existence. So what it's showing is that we are obviously operating from what we consider to be this place of reality, but to the world, do you understand? That's not reality. To them, the physical is the reality, understood? And where we are operating from, or that this world of darkness is more seen as the illusionary world. But how can it be? Because obviously this area preceded, the darkness preceded the light. Yeah, light only exists obviously within darkness, understood? And so, you know, when we're thinking about what we are in terms of our core, the physical body almost is, in a sense, is built up of layers around the energy being, isn't it? Which are built up obviously from conception into the womb, and a number of different layers are being added obviously to the physical body. But what is the true essence? What's the real you in that regard? You understand? So we get an inkling of that, ignoring some of the some of the religious titles. This book was first released in 1996, so we were still then looking between the bridge. The Hotaps at that point was the bridge between religion and reality, so taking us out of the spell, but giving us that sort of real Wu-Sabat science, yeah, giving us a peer into, you understand, that world of darkness, yeah. So as you can see here, yeah, so they're giving us an idea about Ba'ut, Yeah, so 103. You cannot take from the all and you cannot add to the all. The all merely shares and you become. Understood? So it's talking about the all expanding or existence, yeah, before what we would refer to as creation. 105. The plane of divine reality. So we go from, just a reminder for people, isn't it? Physical, plane of force, spiritual, and these may have updated titles now, but plane of force, spiritual, um, mental plane, plane divine truth, plane of divine reality. You understand? So again, truth and reality is different. So I don't know. Adam, for example, is considered to be the first human being. You understand? Well, say the way they believe, I should say, is his wife, according to let's give a different example. His wife, according to the Bible, you understand, is Eve. Yeah. So that is true according to the book. When you step out of the book into reality, their bodies haven't been found. You understand? There's no evidence that this being named Adam and this other being named Eve actually existed, and that all human life as we know it today, or humanoid life as we know it today, comes from these two individuals as recorded in their story. Understood? So yes, it's true according to the book, but step outside of the book, it's not reality, it's not actual facts until the evidence, overwhelming evidence, is presented to prove what was recorded or written down by those translators is actually reality or real. You understand? It's actually factual outside of what they wrote down. You understand? So you don't know, as we was expressing before, that is coming from the minds of the authors. Yeah, which they copied, we know from other books, but that's coming from the minds of the authors. It hasn't proven itself outside of these religious books, and they only have the oldest versions. They don't even have the originals. They have the oldest that. Well, where's the original? Yeah, and even then, there are things older on this planet that have been found, but they've not found the Garden of Eden, Noah's Ark, and so nothing proves other than what they wrote down. You understand? In various different mediums. You understand now? Obviously, at one time certainly was the best-selling book in the world. Now, so we see here that this plane of divine reality is the mental spark, the true essence of a being. Yeah, so it's giving you what this plane of existence is in relation to us. Understood? And then we get hierarchy, which we've gone through before, showing you the difference between, man is obviously one step above beast here. Some detail. Just we've got a lot to go through today. But here, which we want to, in 126, yeah, Holy Tablets, Living Soul, Tablet 1, 126. So this spark that we were from the plane of divine reality, understood? It says this spark of consciousness, 127, this mental spark that radiates a part of itself to the planes below it. 128, it projects down to the spiritual plane and forms what you call, what you human beings, what you call the soul. That's not saying what the soul is, what we call it. So from our perspective here, we are calling that soul. You understand? But what we're seeing here, is the spark leading to development of human soul. So we're projecting an aspect of ourselves downwards. Yeah, so when you're now thinking of the soul, which is describing the link to the mental aspect of us, then that soul is then sitting within, you understand, a body, you understand, and the ka'ah, the spirit, helps us interlink mentally into the mental. Yeah, it's like our sort of etheric umbilical cord in that regard that links us straight into the mental. Yeah, to help us derive mental energy to become my individual portion of the mind in the body. We see that the body is not as real as we perceive it to be. Yeah, so our essence is operating, do you understand, in this regard from the soul. The soul is reflecting, you understand, is the link between, you understand, or that bridge between the physical for us and towards the spiritual or mental, you understand, for us in that regard. So this is what this is explaining to us. And obviously this link requires a certain amount of positive or agreeable energy to maintain it, so it doesn't get obviously cut off, damaged, so on and so forth, because if not, then we would have lost the link to who we truly or really are. So the animist understands, or we as animists understand, well, the soul is where we're operating from. We're not operating from the body, understood? We are a soul, you understand, within, you understand, that utilizes the body, or has created the body, as ether has created the body to move the soul around. We just explained to you that ether, what? It allows energy to move from one place to another, and it will create the mechanism in order to do that, as well as the infrastructure for that utility to be powered. You understand? So the energy being is moving around in this physical environment is you, or your body, isn't it? That is the car for the soul, so to speak, to allow you to interact within this environment without any other breathing apparatus, etc. It's been designed perfectly to take in, or for the environment in of itself to be able to sustain our physical structure. But it's a mechanism that we're using, and obviously at the point of death, we will shed it, of course, and we will live as soul, which is what they say in their Bible, isn't it? Yeah, God, the Lord God breathed into man in Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, and you understand, and man became a living soul. You don't became something, so you don't become living as soul until you shed the physical body, isn't it? Understood? Yes, so don't live as soul until you die. Understood? So this is what it's shown is that this energy being, and obviously we read this previously, but you know what I mean, the soul, its impact on the physical body, or its the potency of its energy, understand, means that what it can reside, it can still be picked up to 1,000 years after the individual has passed on. Understood? Yeah. So this is showing you, as I say, you know, how much energy, or the potency of the energy contained within the soul, which we remember, we said that, you know, we as Nagari, we don't know the value of it to these six ether beings, and then what they would do, obviously to, you know, to obtain that energy. You understand what I'm saying? So this is, I suppose, important for us to understand these. The science of nature, you understand, not from a Mukasu point of perspective, but holistically, you understand, from a universal perspective. Any questions? Okay, so we can see here that we've got a linked state, you understand, with the soul. So you're living with your soul, yeah, so you are connected, you understand, to this mental reservoir, so this energy state of information, so you're properly powered in that regard. And then we've got this state where beings are cut off from that, you understand, so they don't have that link to this reservoir of unlimited source of energy, in a sense, so don't have that soul, they don't have a soul, yeah, so their link, either they've lost it or it's been cut off by way of their behaviors. Understood? Yeah. So in that regard, now important to understand these numbers as quickly. Then with the numerology, we can see here in the sort of older version of language, we can see those 9 to the 999. As you can see, there is shown. Yeah, in the language, in fact, as well, this was the old sort of Hua symbol, also for it denoted divine love. Understood? So within our language, within our makeup, yeah, these numbers, and our link to the mental as mental beings, as those coming from the world of things, as supreme beings, is inherent part of our culture, inherent part of our science. Not in this phase is just to big us up, which obviously is one of the ways in which the impacts, the psychological damage and impacts of racism have to be dealt with. Yeah, so you think about Honorable Elijah Muhammad on into where we are now with Dr. Malachi KZ York. Those first stages of trying to reverse the damage that's been caused by wrong racism is to big up the person, isn't it? Boost up your self-esteem, teach you about history, teach you about the facts of who we are. But the problem within this society, when you try and apply the correct solution, the design solution for that illness or sickness, the person who points out the inequality between the races, the person who points out the injustice between the races is called a racist. Understood? Yeah, and then they call you black supremacist, black this, black that. They got all these names to you to stop you from curing the problem that they caused, but won't put the necessary funding, resources, research into fix. And now they even want to water it down now, isn't it? What do they call it now? What's the term they use? Unconscious bias. that's the professional word that they use now. Well, everybody's got unconscious bias, and it's another way to water down wrong racism. You understand? Another way to let people off the hook for racism, or let the system that's been put in place off of racism. It's not attacking individuals and friends, and there's always going to be outliers and things of that nature. But the system itself was designed to attack, and it's not been reversed out. Isn't it? It's not been reversed out. So what it was designed for has not been eliminated. It's not been reversed out. That's why nature will have to step in and do what it has to do, so that a new system can be brought in to rebalance everything. Because racism, as I said, is a cancer, against the human spirit. But the damage, the impact, if you are a mental being, which we are, as you can see there, who has a soul, which is a reflection of a projection of the mental aspect of you being projected down to enable you to reside and exist in these lower ether levels or lower planes and environments, which your ancestors saying, hell no, we ain't coming down there. We'll meet you up, but we'll come down to 4. If we send anybody into this realm, it'll be by design. Understood? We're not come. We've evolved past that. We know the dangers of those lower realms, but they obviously have a function and a purpose. Understood? So us down here, our link is in that regard. So anything that affects your mind, anything that affects your mental well-being is killing you. That's not what society teaches in here. Really, to some degree, mental health is more so, obviously, become more prominent now, but not from the perspective that certain people operate from that space solely. That is a true essence of them. You understand? So before all this mental health was being known about, you associate mental health with the extremes of mental health, oftentimes where the person's mental and physical alignment were just completely out of kilter, without the controls to be able to bring it back. You understand? And some of these things are walk-ins, where the person their personality has completely been suppressed. Understand? Any kind of conscious control, being flooded or in housing beings who obviously can utilize them for their own, and oftentimes nefarious purposes. You understand? And that can be triggered from a hereditary disease or from some decisions that made, drug intake, certain things, mental breakdown, too much pressure, whatever the case may be, that can damage obviously the conscious controls within the mind, and maintaining these links obviously that you see there in terms of energy regulation, thought facilitation. Do you understand? These types of things which you have to maintain as a human being. Now you just do it more so, you do it subconsciously, but you also understand there's a level of conscious control that's needed to maintain that balance also. You understand? So its damaging impact on your mental, which obviously, of course, is going to do what? It's going to affect your ascension journey. Yeah, if that link is damaged. Yeah, and we are weakened, of course, as a people. What's the most powerful force in the universe? Well, the most powerful force in the universe is mental energy, isn't it? Mind, thought power. Yeah, so if that is who you are, the reality of who you are, and you accept that, then you understand what your ascension journey must be, because you need to be feeding your mental, your subconscious mind, certainly in the physical, with the right things, right information, understood, so that you're not only maintaining, but you're empowering, you're strengthening that link. Yeah, to have control of this physical environment that we find ourselves in. And as we read further, we're going to see, well, we're not subject to the environment. The environment should be subject to us, understand, as supreme beings. Understand? But obviously, if you believe, or they put you in a state of worthlessness, they put you in a state of pessimism, they put you in a state of depression. Do you understand? These types of things based on some of the environments that we lived in or had to overcome or still live in now. Yeah, there's so much going on, so much chaos. Yeah, where can you find the time to align yourself with order? Yeah, because our whole lives should be aligned with order. Chaos should be a minimal part of our lives if it comes, and then we what? You either have to take control of it or you ignore it. You understand? This is how it's supposed to be, but it's the other way around, isn't it? We've got a little bit of order and majority chaos there that we're dealing with. Yeah, so how has it been designed in that way? Well, it's been designed, remember, to take advantage of you when you die. There's nothing more flavoursome for a 6E for ghostational forces, yeah, than an innocent soul. You know, innocent life being taken, yeah, of an innocent soul. Yeah, nothing more flavoursome. So, someone's coming to feed. That's why you have to recognize, what's out there and what we're generating in terms of emotional energy from ourselves, as beings in that regard. Let's jump into another scroll just to understand, obviously, this 6 and 9 ether existence, yeah, existing sort of simultaneously alongside of each other. Yeah, so just a couple of pages out of this. So actual facts 36, existence, how and why. I'm going to start from verse 40. So it says parts of nature exist as units or universes, while other parts exist in chaos, dark energy, while others are calm, dark matter. 41. So in fact, the parts that existed as multiverses created universes, or a unit in existence, meaning action is movement in and from stillness and disturbs calmness by giving birth to chaos. So in fact, black or darkness is calm, and light, white, bright is chaos. So out of darkness was light created, or out of calm chaos was in and is born. Understood? So we understand that, as we've been relating it in these classes to our journey, you understand, in relation to us as human beings. Understood? And we denote that in the world of things, you understand, yeah, the rules kick in, so natural rules kick in the world of things, is being, becoming, became. You understand? So we must go or formulate through those stages. So the first word is being, isn't it? Yeah, being, becoming, became. Understood? So there's an ing in the first two stages, and that's showing you that basically what was the first state that preceded that would be to be. Yeah, to exist. Yeah, so be. So this is this stillness to some degree, you understand, or it's referred to as basic energy. And then out of that, you have motion or movement. You understand? So then that first state is being, yeah, and then obviously becoming as we transform into became. Yeah, so from that world of that energy state have come now to materialize or manifest, into the physical, the world of light, you understand, the world of chaos, as we find ourselves now with these, with our soul to some degree in opposition, you understand, to our physical structure. So one is trying to return back to the ground, and that's its nature, and one is seeking to return back to the source from whence it came, i.e. our soul. You understand? 42. In other words, order and disorder exist. So what's he explaining is what drives this process within this within existence is that you have particles existing aimlessly. Yeah, so for lack of a better word, without purpose. Yeah, so they're floating around without purpose, and then within these environments, in a sense, they have seasons, and so when the summer of existence visits these parts of these multiverses or whatever, it forces then these particles to then start to organize themselves and become into order. Understood? And that starts in and of itself this process of being described. Understood? So here we see, in other words, order and disorder exist. Out of one comes forth the other. So in fact, they exist at the same time before they exist in the same place as dark matter and dark energy. Because once you think of what you wish to make or create, it exists in your mind. Then that is in a state of time existence. Or the moment you come up with an idea, it began to exist in time from that first thought of, yet not in space and matter as of yet. So again, one of the important things that we explained, and we were expressing this in terms of the birthing process of how we come about physically, obviously as supreme beings, when men and women come together, or soulmates come together in the ideal state, is that when you look at that space, matter, and time, remember, mind becomes time, within that triad, because mind is utilizing existence as it expresses itself going forward. Remember, being, becoming, became, as it expresses itself going forward, it is creating, understood, the very infrastructure for it to exist as it descends down, for lack of a better word, into these lower states of existence. You understand? Complex but lower states of existence. And so we can see here the link, as I say, between time and mind. Obviously, that mind and time become synonymous with each other. You understand? So you think of something mentally first, you understand? And so it exists in that state of time. Time is. Time doesn't have a definition. Time is in this regard. And you reverse it, as I say, you see the word emit. So there are further processes that have to be built, obviously, once the mental process is started. You understand? We went through this as above, of course, so below. So it says here, yet not in space and time as of yet. Once you shape or fashion, make great or birth the thing, now it creates, and we just explained, now it creates its own place or space. As a baby forms in the womb of its mother, it creates its own space, to facts, to time, to thought, then to place. Now once it's completed, it has become something, or the sum of a thing. Matter, weight, density, and existences, therefore, is of three kinds. Moment of mental conception before it has incarnated. He came out of us. He knows he is chaotic by his natural nature, and you, his creator, is calm by your natural nature, yet you should not be weak and abused by him in any way. He knows you are the supreme being. Now you must acknowledge who you are, not what you became under him. So remember, this is one of the key aspects to understanding the spell, isn't it? The double U. Yes, and W. The two W's, which is a sort of double meaning. W itself in English, the letter, which is double U, two U's. Who you are by natural nature, and then the what you became, in the saying, under him within this environment. You understand? And this creates the for lack of a better word, this adds to the virtual reality, in the sense of being born in this environment, because you have got this kind of fake version of you that's been created, and that we add to, because we're born into this particular environment, and then it creates this fake, I suppose, version of us that we have to then maintain for survival. Understood? But if the environment and our spiritual science are not conducive with each other, then what you find, which most of us obviously will find ourselves living now, that you have to maintain the what for liberty and survival in this society, but then you're neglecting the who you are according to natural nature. So the key is, and one of the things obviously which the Masters have fought hard to try and get us our own land, and place and state, is so that we could merge like our ancient Egyptian ancestors did, our ancient Africans, is that the spiritual side, in the same, was merged into the physical. We worked no more than 20 hours a week at our most progressive state, and when you look to the environment, it reflected the heavens. You understand? So the world of darkness and the chaos of life were merged together. There was a reminding presence of the environment. There was a calm presence of the environment. You understand? There was a presence that maintained and respected and encouraged, spiritual development. So 20 hours was for maintaining of work, of liberty of the society. The rest was for, recreation and spiritual practice. I mean, recreation is in recreation, but have fun, enjoy, develop yourself spiritually. Understood? So that balance was there as a part of the environment, which we don't see more so here in the West. Obviously, in some of the other countries, where some of these Muslim countries or whatever, they've tried to create that, maybe with the oil wealth that we've found in some of the countries, where the environment maybe is, the adhan, whatever is playing in the background, etc., etc. Obviously, heavily influenced by the West. And desire maybe for Western ways to come into their countries, but that's what you want to be able to do, isn't it? Use the wealth and create an environment conducive to the spiritual alignment that is associated with your race. You understand? And this is the key for us, in terms of not only our survival but the development. Remember, soulmates, their whole purpose is to produce supreme beings. And supreme beings need a certain type of environment to exist as supreme beings. Understand? Otherwise, they'll find themselves lowering themselves down that chain to become as low down the order, the divine chain of to become men and women, which are one step above beast. Now, it says now once completed, it's become something. So, world of things. World of some things, or world of energy versus the world of the physical matter or material that we're touching upon throughout this session today. So, of a thing, that matter, weight, density, existence, therefore, is of three kinds: moment of mental conception before it is incarnated. Which, remember, we broke down to you previously that in the Enneads, the 9 Enneads, Atum. It's first, and then you have Tefafnatat or Tefnut, representing moisture or water, and then you had Shua or Shu, some say, representing air. You understand? Yes. So remember, Shu was what? Perceptive thoughts, and then Tefnut, you understand, represented receptive thoughts. When you bring perceptive thoughts together and receptive thoughts, it gives birth to the son Geb or Gibab or Sabab, who represents concepts. So perception and reception equals conception. You understand? In that regard. So we were birthed mentally first, before physically. And so Gibab or Sabab, is represented by two elements. The golden goose they refer to him as. It also ties back into the sun, but it also represents a bird of two elements, obviously air and water, obviously as his parents. yeah, in that triad that's been broken down. This is why and Geb is associated with the earth. So certain in ancient Egypt we don't say Mother Earth. It would obviously be Father Earth because Gibab or Sabab represents the um, the earth. Obviously, his counterpart Nut represents the sky. You understand? So again, represent that moisture um, in that context. Understood as a lower down version, obviously, of air in that context. So yeah, so mental first before physical. So inception before conception when we deal with ourselves physically. So he acknowledges who you are or must acknowledge, yeah, in that context. That's what it says. Honor thy mother and father, so your days will be long and prosperous. Do you understand? As they say in their Bible. You understand? And M other and F avia. You understand? Yeah, it's the same thing, isn't it? So other is ether. M other or F avia is F ether. You understand? Father. And then M other as other is also ether, isn't it? Yeah. So because the O and the A are interchangeable, in terms of vowels. Yeah? So in terms of sound, because of sound shifts in languages, understood. So we understand that we're coming from that world of things, understand, and what renders us a supreme being. So let's continue. 43. So you exist at the same time in nature's mind's eye, but not the same space or places at any point in time. So no two physical things can occupy the same space at the same time if they are vibrating on the same vibrations. Now the fact is two or more existing tones can, by the tone or pitch of sound, thus this would mean that they are at the same point in time you hear them, seemingly at the same place at the time when the sound or music is played, yet because each key or note played or spoken is a different key or tone, it will vibrate differently if you strike the same key on different keyboards. One blends into the other and they become one and the exact same tone, yet from two different places to fuse in the environment. So this is important for us because as we were saying in the last class, when you're talking about obviously these different levels, you have to draw them on a piece of paper and it looks like one is above the other. Understood? Where there's a lot of space in space, so different tones or vibrational energies can exist in and around each other and occupy the same space in the same environment. This is how a universe is also structured and created, where you've got 8 tones or 8 worlds occupying out of the original Big Bang, occupying this what could be considered to be the same space, obviously, same space and time, but they're not vibrating on the same level. So we've got worlds upon or within, how you want to describe it, worlds, and your ability as supreme beings, you understand, and the characteristics of our ancestors, in fact, was one of the tests set for us in the last 24,000 year cycle, was to be able to move interdimensionally. You understand? And part of the characteristics being developed for those golden children, you understand, was to intercept our genes to speed up, you understand, the development of that characteristic, because as we explained in some great detail in last class, obviously is to realign energies which are trapped in lower ether ranges back where they should be, which is empowering forces or states or planes where only where their ancestors exist on. They should not be being used as etheric batteries for other races and other races' ancestral or spiritual forces. Understood? Yeah. So, so we understand obviously with the electromagnetic spectrum, your eyes obviously are only locked into a certain part of that vibrational range. You understand, between 400 and 700 nanometers. But we also have to understand you have worlds upon or worlds within worlds that we can jump between. Understood? And so these spiritual attributes or traits was what many of the things that needed to be developed or were being developed on Tamaray. These exercises to develop these dormant skills and attributes inside of you. If we seek to live, and this is not us being racist, it's just saying we're not them and they are not us. So if we seek to imitate them, how much are you letting go? Yeah, I know they talk about what profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul in their Bible. You understand? So how much are you giving up to play? You understand, Mr. White Man? You understand, or Mr. White Woman? How much are you giving up of self just to maintain yourself in the society? So certain of our, obviously, of the generations must sacrifice. Yeah, if we're following that plan from the 9 ball that was given to us all the way back in the 60s, we must develop our own economic um, means, you understand, to sustain ourselves physically, understood, so we're not subject to the rule of or law, let's say, of other races for our survival. You understand? So whether that you start from day one, and 20 years, 50 years later, you understand, we get to that place or position that must be our ultimate goal if we're going to create the optimum environment for the 360 degree into 720 progression. You understand? To progress out of this physical world, out of the point of death. So it says, so in 44, so in fact, order and disorder alternates back and forth by exchanging places, is what we're obviously expressing. There's 6 and 9 ether existing at the same time. By way of growth and decay, they must pass each other, and in passing by, yeah, so we're seeing this point of existence, where we've got these forces existing. In the case of ourselves, we can see we've got the manifestation of these energies now with the different races obviously showing us in the physical. We explained earlier about the 999 out of 1,000, so on and so forth. Yeah, we're all existing at the same time. You understand? In and around each other, particularly for those who live in big multicultural cities. You understand? But obviously, one environment is more conducive for one set of liberty than it is for another. Understood? So, in and around that, it will weaken us, obviously, and empower them. So, but the forces of Wu-Sabat, understand, as it came in with the new cycle in 1970, we're starting to reverse that, isn't it? Starting to where 6 ether was dominating in the last moon cycle for 6,000 years. It first visits what? Wu-Sabat first visits the minds of the posterity. You understand? So the minds of the descendants. You understand, of those 9 ether beings. Yeah, and so the mindset is being changed in the first instance, not changing physically. The mindset is changed first. You understand? In the way these forces work. Yeah, so change the mind, then the physical can follow, and then physical unity can follow thereafter, because you now have the strength and the power and the energy to want to work with others. You understand? Or to override the very forces that are keeping you separated. Yeah? So it says, you as Negroes exist outside nature as supreme beings, while Caucasoids exist in nature as all other animals. Yeah. 45. When the summer cycle comes to the chaotic parts, we just speaking about this, weren't we? When the summer cycle comes to the chaotic parts of primeval chaos of nature, universes sprout and grow like trees throughout existence that have been in disorder. 46. When the winter cycle of existence comes to the orderly parts of universes of nature, universals crumble and return back to primeval chaos, while others in various places are beginning to grow. 47. These changes have no effect on the Negroid's physical body as supreme beings, yet they do affect the Caucasoid's physical body as an animal who has roamed out of his natural environment and now must run and hide from the rays of the sun, or it will kill him dead. His race can't stand to stay exposed in natural nature directly. Winter and summer is his outright enemy, as well as wet and dry. Each attacks. Yeah, so it will go on to say, obviously, his physical. So you see that as I think we expressed before, but we'll go over that for people who haven't heard it before. So you think about yourself or people with strong genes like the Sands people, their hair texture is so, which denotes genetic strength. The tighter the curl, the stronger the genes. And it's actually an expression of sun heat genes in activation. You understand? So, because when you apply heat to fur, it's going to curl. But when you apply it to real hair, obviously the curl's gonna get tighter. Understood? So when we see this, we see that, if it rained, for example, on a Sands person's head in the environment, let's say they was in England or whatever, and it rained, is their hair gonna change? No, it's gonna stay exactly the same tight curls that they've got. Understood? But if a Caucasian person has a certain type of hairstyle, whatever, or perm, and it rains, what will happen? The water will affect, you understand, their fur texture, and it will, you understand, it will alter because of the rain. Yeah, if it was hot and sunny, they say, oh, well, my hair is becoming frizzy, you understand, when it was straight. So they're being impacted by the external conditions. Is the Sands person's tight curl going to change? No, it's not going to change. You understand? When the sun hits us, yeah, whether it's hot, yeah, obviously we derive more energy from that. Understood? When the sun hits their skin, they can be burned, but you can be burned by hot, or you can be burned by cold. You understand? So this is what is being expressed here. Both instances, you can be you can be burned. So it's not that, because there's this myth that, oh well, black people, white people, their structure is more conducive to colder weather, and that black people's structure is more conducive to hotter weather. We're conducive for all environments, as you read in the Holy Tablets about in the chapter 1 about the craft ship Nibiru. Yeah, it tells you that Nibiru can operate in all four environments, whether it's air, sea, land, or space. You understand? It can adapt. You are a Nibiru. Yeah, you are a craft ship that can adapt to all environments. You have more layers of skin than all other human beings on the planet. So if your melanin is functioning correctly, you understand, and you are breathing correctly, whilst we don't like the cold, if you walked out, you understand, and you were proper breathing, you understand, you were functioning correctly, you could well walk in winter conditions, walk outside with limited clothing and not be as cold as you think you are. You understand? Because your structure is developed. Doesn't mean that we want to live in cold environments, but you're more able to withstand the impacts of that than any other race on the planet because of your melanin, because of the layers in your epidermis, understood, which is the first line of defense for your immune system. You understand? Or your immune response to any type of diseases, understood? So it's a myth, as I say, that white is cold. When you're looking at white in nature, or transparency in nature, you're looking at the expression of recessive genes. Yeah, that's what it means in nature, recessive genes. Yeah, and so obviously predators, obviously it's more conducive for them, isn't it, to blend into the environment when they're hunting. Understand? So that also denotes a certain type of nature of those individuals. But not everything in cold environments is the same color as snow, is it? You look at penguins, you look at seals, killer whales. So there are many beings there that have, melanin. Understood? They're not everything in winter is things. So that myth, yeah, of this sort of out of Africa theory or whatever, is nothing but lies. Yeah, unproven theories, even advanced by many black people. You understand? Pan-African is all about out of Africa theory. This is how white people came around. No, you understand? And ignore the extraterrestrial involvement, ignore the experimentation on the planet which is going on, and explore the diseases that their ancestors sought to place within them. Do you understand? To use them as a weapon in a war that took place several many thousands of years ago. You understand? Which obviously is still being the ramifications of today. So he's a disease, not a racist statement. It's to do with their story and why they were created. A certain strain of them known today, obviously, as the Canaanites, biblically, were created, obviously, to poison the food chain for certain extraterrestrials that fed on human flesh. You understand? So, and these things they know. I think there's a old school sci-fi series called Defiance. Free series of that. I think it was released in like 2013 on the Sci-Fi Channel, and you spoilers, but you go to season 3, and there's there's a group of black people or whatever with blue eyes, you understand, that fed off of other races for food. Interesting enough. You look at how they dress, you look straight like Anunnaki. You understand, this particular program called Defiance. Nonetheless, let's continue. Yeah, so you can see here that Supreme Being is this out. We're not affected by nature, so you can see mentally, yeah, because without the right outformation coming to us in the form of information, then we find ourselves living lower than what we should be. And so we've accepted what life should be, what we are, etc., by these religious standards, but it's kept so much information about who you really are away from you, which has obviously hindered your outformational into informational development. So you see here, excuse me, yeah, about the soul obviously being cut off. 410, so we're back to that. Yeah, so 410, this cutting off can be, in fact, let's go back so we're confused. 409, so it's talking about the soul and its connection, how that connection can be cut off. Yeah, so it's cut to separate two, child, Muldatat, mother physically, and also once a person's etheric cord is cut, they are separated from the etheric realm of Nashat energy, which links them to the Ba'ah soul. They are on their own emotionally, no link to the oversoul. Yet this cutting off can be of any race who choose to live in the image and like the cursed seed of Adamites who worship them, trust their ways of life, their Zama'at religions of Mosesism, Jesusism, Mohammedism. They lose their Ba'ah soul, and by blind faith are under a hypnotic spell of ignorance, where they just ignore the facts and confirmations that expose their religious beliefs as legends, tales, fictions, and magic tricks of illusions. 411, they believe to be some kind of divine miracles performed by pretenders, fakers who pretend to be prophets, messiahs, disciples, angels, and even God, or sons of God, attributes copied from their Safa'at, books of their own Salafu ancestors or their own hands. 412, deception, and many of our own race have accepted these Mesopotamian religious Wu-Sabat lies, mistranslations of the Sumerian stone tablets given to Moses by Tammuz, son of Damuzi, son of Enki, son of Anu, and his Mudaltat, mother, Inanna, daughter of Nanar, son of Enlil, son of Anu, the Sumerian deities who came to earth from Nibiru. 413, the result of the Adamites by Canaanites is their ill health. They are very sick people, ruled by evil and wickedness. Genesis 6, chapter 6, verse 5. 414, their physical ill health. 415, their mental ill health. 416, their emotional ill health. 417, their spiritual ill health. 418, all which leads to death and dying. The living dead live with all nawa'u kinds of illnesses, disease, sickness, and even mental disorders of many nawa'u kinds. They try to hide by the intake of drugs, alcohols of any kind to stimulate sha'urat, feelings, in a khatat body attacked by barasi, leprosy. Yeah. Genesis 9:25 says, and he said, cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants, shall he be unto his brethren. King James Version. Hansen's disease or Hamson's disease. 1 of the nervous system, 2 of the nasal system, which is in fact called nosology. Yeah, look it up. Yeah, nosology. 419. These affect their khatat body movements of spasms, spasmodic lack of rhythm, with the khatat body not able to keep up with rhythm in rakus dance because of barasi leprosy in their nervous system and their lack of smelling scents, odors, and how most have nose blockage, which results in a buzzing hum-like sound when they speak or sing or chant. 420. Many because of their light lawan color are day blind. 421. Many because of their light, thin, kashar skin must avoid daylight in fear of skin burn and cancer. 422. Their farah fur falls out of their heads at a very young age. 423. They are stiff, rigid, as in rigor mortis. 424. They live in all kinds of nawa'u kinds of pain. All their lives they must take stimulants to stimulate their bodies, coffee, smoke, alcohol, pills, any and all nawa'u kinds of stimulus, all day, all kinds of skincare, makeups to hide and cover their deteriorating jasad flesh. 425. All kinds of pills to relax their nerves, all kinds of perfumes to cover their bad khatat body odors. You are looking at a living carcass. He is a disease and seeks to mix and mingle and dilute all other races. 426. And because of race mixing by race and force, many of other races, black, brown, sapphire, yellow, now suffer these same sicknesses and diseases from them and must be cleaned inside out and outside inward. 427. They are the many faces of death. 428. If you Nawapians watch one full day of TV, you will notice once made aware of all the commercials for the Adamu Salal Adamite race, all about how to restore the look of healthy farah fur, ways to repair their kashar skin diseases, their teeth, their brittle bones, joint pains, acne, spots and swellings, how to look alive and spray on kashar skin and lawanat colors. 429. You see them as just commercials when they're repairs of dead people and they pretend they are the great pretenders. 430. All day and all night on TV, acting in cinemas. They act so well. They cry. They die. They seem to show fear, love, affections, tatufat, emotions, yet don't see all people standing around shooting the show or cinema. It's acting. That is the same for them in real life when they pretend to care about other races. 431. You see it, and Fakur think they have sha'urat feelings just like other races. You're wrong. They don't. Look at the 432. Look at the Indian Zazatatu women. Rakus dance, grace, rhythm. Look at the Asian Zazatatu women. Rakus dance, grace, rhythm. Look at the African Zazatatu women. Rakus dance, grace, rhythm. Now look at the Caucasian Zazatatu women. Try to Rakus dance with grace and rhythm. They can't do it. They jump up and down, move their feet with the upper khatat body stiff. No rhythm, no grace. Why? Because of barasi, leprosy. 433. Also, they have diseases such as hemophilia. They demand blood cells, fail to clot. They are bleeders. Some have to stay indoors. No sunlight at all. Many others. They must mix with others every 4 generations or die off. They are the walking dead and they know it. So, you see here, harsh but true. You understand? And in many times, they try to put all of those things on us, whether it was calling us the Canaanites and treating people that we were the Canaanites. We were the ones cursed by God with our black skin, big lips, and obviously woolly hair, only to find out that we always had nature's love. We always had the sun's love. You understand? So this was all the men now, but yet we hated ourselves. Now there's surgical options and things to change the nature, all the blessings that we had. We're now going to the plastic surgeon to remove those blessings, you understand, or put our life in danger to look like the new image of the beast, you understand, refined or revised image of the beast, which they have in sort of the world today. But those natural attributes you were blessed with, they made, as I say, a genetic strength was associated with ugliness, whereas genetic weakness for human beings, all human beings I'm talking, was associated with that which was beautiful. Understand? As I say, the program is so harsh. I remember even as a kid, Timothy, they made you want to have. Well, how come I haven't got dandruff? Head and Shoulders, man. Head and Shoulders. They made you want to have dandruff so you could have an excuse to use Head and Shoulders. That's how powerful the TV is, as we've said many times before. So they know this. You understand? And so, yeah, they know who the source of the restorative energy is of a steward. So if they can get it from you willingly or by deception, they will do so. And many white people on Mukasu have been brainwashed themselves about, you understand, and into superiority, understood. So of course they would not see themselves in this way or in this fashion, or see their ancestors in this way or in this fashion. But travel the world. You understand? I was in Mexico not too long ago, and if you do some tours of some of the sites or whatever, even in countries like that, you see the invasion of Spanish or whatever, millions upon millions of people killed, from diseases brought over inadvertently or in certain cases deliberately to take over certain sites, controls, subjugate the people, and all kind of nefarious behaviors in that regard. And you see, wow, some of these societies existed, quite perfectly, unharmed. Well, we wouldn't agree with all their practices, but but then some foreigners have come along and completely wiped out, some of these indigenous species, yes, through diseases. Yeah, so not necessarily through war weaponry in that regard, that maybe come after, but through just simply diseases, that they've spread and killed off, as I say, millions of people. So we can see here, we've shown these before, these hieroglyphic symbols, or safaf, as it should be called in the language. 9 ether, which we did some extensive classes on, showing you about that positive energy that we talked about that we needed to maintain. Now it's working. That positive energy. The new bowl, as you see there, in 9 ether. We see the which denotes the end sound. The ulad, you understand, symbol there. In that's also hair texture. You can see it looks like a 9, and the palel, you see there, the stool. So na u ha u. Nupu, force of nupu. 9 ether representing living or life, as you can see there in the symbol, and the forces of zupu. So we see there's a bass here, the lock, so lock. So remember, if you take the N, yes, correct, and you turn it, and we've shown this before, we turn 90 degrees, isn't it? Turn that lock 90 degrees, 90 degrees to the right, we get our Z. So N turn 90 degrees to the right. So the lock is in Haas to block, that life energy that we were talking about earlier, for you to maintain, or you need a certain amount of energy to maintain the connection, as well as your obviously physical liberty. And if it's in deficit in any way, shape, or form for what you require to sustain that, then we are in a state of dying. So and clearly those forces will seek to take advantage of that. You understand? So 6 ether, as you can see, it shows the lock because we're cut off from those etheric forces that would help to sustain us. You understand? And whether we're not only cut off, we're cut off because of ignorance. We're ignoring the facts of who we are, our perception, etc. It can cut us off. You see that, for example, with the most obvious, isn't it? That black people are running about wearing sunscreen in the Western Hemisphere when their ancestors never knew nothing about no sunscreen. And now they're telling you in the West you must wear sunscreen when you're going back to Jamaica, or you're going back to Barbados, or you're going back to Ghana or back to Nigeria. You must wear sunscreen as descendants of those people. In South America, they wear sunscreen. You understand? The real indigenous, you understand, darker skinned peoples. No, you're born into those environments. Obviously, your melanin is not functioning properly if your skin is burning. So why not correct the melanin? Why not fix that? They don't want to teach you that in this society, because he keeps those secrets away from them, because he doesn't want to expose the fact he doesn't have sun heat genes. He doesn't want to expose the fact that he has thinner layers of skin. Just be honest. If we were honest, if everything was honest, we were operating from a place of fact, from a source of truth in that regard. Let's start from everybody be strong and operate from that perspective, and then we'll get along. As we say, no one wins a race in racism, but you can't have a situation where you've got lies which are designed to suppress, oppress, and take advantage of a certain group of people. Generally, when you see people get together, and if they're not wicked, nefarious people of different races, they you know what I mean, and all of them equal, whatever you call it, equal stature, equal opportunity, whatever the case may be. Unless people are complete arseholes, they get along with each other, generally speaking. You get along with people from all types of races, but the system, remember, is designed to really keep us separated, keep us apart in that regard. As the master teacher explained, economists are the ones who created racism, to create different markets, to sell the same types of things to different people. Understood. But you can't have the sort of Nelson Mandela type syndrome, which is basically forgive and forget and continue life as normal. Do you understand? After so much wickedness has been perpetrated. No. You understand? We have to become who we're supposed to be. They get back into the knowledge. You understand? So our brain dirtiness must be cleaned, and our link restored, and the brainwashing that has fooled them to think they are superior must be receive the true information about who they are and decide whether they want to accept it or not. Then obviously we can think about restoring true balance, but we can't have, you understand, the foundation based on deception and lies. There's no forward progression for us in that state. Well, we'll forgive you for everything. We're not operating from a place of revenge. We are operating from a place of ascension. We are operating from a place of progression. We are operating from a place of liberty. We are operating from a place of positive energy. We're not operating from revenge. But we must develop methods and means to protect ourselves from those who would want to see us or whose systems will want to do us harm. Understood. Any questions?
No questions.
Okay, I'll continue. So we can see the difference between those two symbols, and we can see that here the word Napa in the language, obviously color, animate, alive, and then it's converse or inverse, so say the first letter there with the Z. Inanimate, dead, or colorless, so Zappa. Transparent, and transparent. So I have no more sun heat genes left in the formula. Understood? So a lower or lesser formula. So let's continue. Excuse me. So 434. There is only one way to come alive, and that is to be born. Yet there are many ways to die. The list is too long, from stillbirth, abortion, sickness, accidents, killed, suicide, old age. There's so many ways in between birth and death to die, and each affect your state of being after. 435. How or when you return or are trapped here, as the Adamites are to the Tapal world, as they pretend not to be prejudiced. 436. They use wannabes, even give them jobs on TV and in government to abuse their own races for the Leben Salah white race. 437. You find this among Asians, Latinos, Indians, and Negroes. mental slaves of the white race, tools and weapons for abuse. Slaves are mental deaf, powerful people who just don't know their own sakhamat powers because they accept Adamite religions and cut off their own Salafu ancestors who can and will help them if they only knew, if only they would ask, as most of us knowing now are doing, returning to animism, nature of natures. Yeah, so this is important that this connection with your ancestors and having your um your altar in your own home with the images of your 30 and knowing the rituals of how to connect with them, because you have those they are inside of you, and their journey, excuse me, their purpose is to assist you and assist their bloodline, of course, in this life. Do you understand? So you have the ability to call on them rather than them having the ability to influence your life in the physical, because ultimately you're the one in control, you're the one making the decisions. You are both etheric and physical, they are etheric, so you must be the conduit for them to have impact in the physical world in this regard. And we fail. One of the things that's more damaging to us is that we're not giving them purpose by putting requests on them to help us obviously overcome some of the challenges that we have, or the many challenges that we have in life. You understand? So the same way you'd come and ask your family here, there's no requirement for you to do everything on your own. Who said it? So if you want to put yourself in a situation where you're not using the powers that are available to you to put you in a winning position, then that's on you. You're making your life harder. You understand? So we have to develop those capabilities and talents and develop ourselves, as Amar said. We're considered to be spiritually weak. Yeah, but the Mahdi and others have shown, as I say, that when you do have those spiritual powers, obviously, we need to direct, as I say, we need to be successful in all ways, economically, spiritually, do you understand, culturally, all these things we must, place our energy that we have into developing those talents and skills to develop and maintain a power position. And when we get back there, know how to sustain ourselves within that and not have these ups and down drops, as we see in the alternation between 6 and 9 ether, and sadly completely take ourselves out of this kind of up and down cycle of rulership. 438. The Negroid race of Africans are no longer being held down at the bottom of the totem pole of humanoid races. 439. As far as self-unity, self-respect, self-pride, self-honor, the right knowledge of self and of others, admiration from others is starting to happen now for Africans. World over, respect and recognition from all others, and to power, world power, and concern after having been down and denied and stripped of our original cultural heritage by the negative evolutionary forces of unnatural natural nature, down through evolution for 6,000 shamutat years in the death cycle. 440. And now that the Adamite races, Adamites, Edomites, Canaanites, end is upon them, so is their loss of power, rule, wealth, and that Patahites, Nagaru, Negroids, time to return to rule self and kind. 441. The Mungaru, Nagaru race of Tasu Sanafu, 9 species, needs more mental and physical help at this time than other racial posterities, descendants, who have not suffered as much abuse from the Yarapu Europeans as Africans, the Indians, Asians, and Aborigines. 442. So for the sake and benefits of the Hamem Salau black race, who have suffered more than most, and the darker of the Sabah hue and more abused, to suffer more than most, and the darker of our Sabah hue, the more abused, afflicted. 443. This work, Parthabat, the proof, is to show the Tabut prove as an outline introduction to the true culture of the race of Kinki Wabar hair, since these works are only an introduction to the original African Patahite Hamite culture, that we will be called a cult because we seek to cultivate our own culture by white people world over who seek to keep our race both mentally and physically enslaved to them and their culture and religion in their image and after their likeness. And so, as we touched on earlier, the race, the person who points out the inequality between the races becomes the racist. The person amongst our own who seeks to formulate our own culture to service our developmental, you understand, needs and progression and ascension requirements, you understand, we're called a cult for that because we won't follow the religion of the white race or their version of those religions, you understand, and play whitey in those religions, play subservient to their religions. Religion or monotheistic religions in their translated books with their images simply makes us subservient to other races. That's what it sets you up for as a people, and unprepared for the transition or the doorway of death. Yeah. 444. Yet this is not my only work, and there is much to be disclosed, not only for the Negroid race, yet for all concerned. No one means a race in racism. Understand? As we said in the last class, those who want to embrace the culture, obviously, of the original peoples, that they become one of us. In the sense, if they respect, honor, or embrace the culture, they become one of us. We respect those who respect us. That's how we work. In the same, we're not dealing with hate. Respect those who respect us for who we are. Not just respect us, but respect us for who we are as Musbantu. Respect us for who we are as Munwapu. You understand? Respect us as who we are in our culture. Yes, then we'll show them respect. Those who mock, want to ridicule, you understand, through ignorance, then we don't have to respect you. You understand? There's no turn the other cheek in this doctrine or spiritual science of ours. You understand? We'll turn the other person's cheek if they seek to turn our cheek. That's our understanding of how that works. We're not setting ourselves up to be mutilated, maimed, and abused by others for their benefit and progression, and to our detriment. The African race, continuing, the African race is all people who grow genuinely kinky hair on their heads. Most did not grow face or khatat body hair or farah until after being raped and mixed with Europeans who has fur, not hair. So remember, see all this beard, you know what I mean, beard energy that we're seeing sort of all in the States and in the UK and all over Europe by blacks, you understand, who want to have this Enkidu look, you understand, don't get me wrong, you know what I mean. I like basketball and all these things or whatever the case may be, but this bearded look, you understand, of the sort of really coming from the sort of Islamic side influence, yeah, that bearded look, really when you look at it, we were hairless, you understand, we didn't have really hair on our body, didn't have fur. When it's on our bodies, it's really fur. Understood? Yeah, the fur beard, you understand, the fur on the chest, on the legs, so on and so forth. Yeah, when we get closer to the strength of our genes, we didn't have that. So you see, it's come from mixing. You understand? In our genes, hair on the chest or fur on the chest, arms, legs, so on and so forth. Yeah, our hair which was curly was on our head. You understand? Yes, obviously you have eyebrows or whatever, but the whole facial hair thing, in a sense, is showing, as I say, interception within the genes. All creatures, Hunat, animals have fur. Only the true original Hamem Salau, black race, have kinky, nappy hair and always black. Yeah, as we were talking about in the last class. And we saw, I think, even just recently with Beyonce releasing that country music album, she's at the Grammys in blonde fur. You understand? Blonde fur. Yeah. So you can see, as I say, and then release the country and western album. Not as blacks were the originals of country and western, but obviously it's become hella racist. You understand in that regard. Um, yeah, so that the acknowledgement of its roots and origin is certainly been whitewashed away. But as I say, you are imitating a sick person or you as a sick person when you imitate those colors in that way. You understand? So it is what it is, but obviously you're sending a certain type of vibration out to the world. Listen, most black people look dumb. I'll be honest with you, they look stupid. If you particularly you've got a certain amount of color and you've got some orange, wig or blonde wig. You understand? I'm sure the men would do the same. You understand? You look dumb. You look stupid. Let's be honest. It doesn't match. This is the issue. Just because people are saying it's acceptable and it's been propagated all around the world and there's images of this and people wearing it and so on and so forth, it don't look good. You understand? It doesn't look good. So, be proud of who you are, accept who you are. Understood? It can only be for your betterment. Introducing vibrations which will go against the natural vibrations only towards your detriment. So it depends what you want to achieve, isn't it? Do you want to achieve self-preservation, eventually ascension and live forever, or do you want to do self-destruction? Understood? And have a pathway to let's say limited liberty. Do you understand? With the not being able to transition at the point of death, and then if you're not strong enough or powerful enough, you could deplete into nothingness, just be merged back with all the elements, the part of you which collective as that collective energy, which may see yourself as an individual, will be lost. You just merge back with existence. You understand? Or worse, in worst case, find yourself trapped in lower realms of existence, being fed on by adverse etheric forces. 445. And I, Nabab Yaanuwn, in this flesh body, born June 26, 1945, Tuesday, in a government hospital in Takoradi, Ghana, West Africa, of the Iwe tribe, a Kan tribe on my mother's side, Mary Abba Akran, and Bassa tribe of Liberia, West Africa, and on my father's side, Al-Hadi Abdul Rahman Al-Mahdi, of the tribe of Nubia, the Dongolawi tribe, who was originally also from Ghana and moved westward to West Sudan by way of Al-Mahdi's first wife, Makbul Laula, from the Iwe tribe, a Kan tribe clan. 446, and Al-Mahdi was of the Dongolawe tribe of Nubia. They birthed Abdul Rahman Al-Mahdi, the father of my father. 447, so I am Malachi Kwabena York, a member of the Black African race by nature, in the positive and the initiative. Many times I asked, from where have you learned all this and that from? What Safar book did you get this from? 448. Some claimed for Shamutat years he only plagiarized all of it until I was imprisoned on May 8, 2002 in the USA and kept in lockdown with no access to a computer or many other Safa'at books. I began to write by hand, Wunawapu, and explain the Shayanat things never taught by anyone before myself, and to teach what was not even known by the best of their Akalat minds, both Mulbanu whites and Muhammad ones who are blacks, Jews, Christians, and Muslims, when I revealed the ancient Lahaj of Wunawap, Sabian, and translated and explained the true Qasud meaning of the ancient Egyptian Napatan hieroglyphics, and transliterated the Arabic and Quran and Hebrew of the Bible word for word, showing them Shayanat things in those Safa'at books no one ever showed before, things they were able to investigate, check out, and confirm for themselves, and so much more. 449. Governments world over found planet and tri-solar systems, of which I taught as far back as 1970, and life on Mars, and so much more I taught long before it became public. The 24,000 genome of humans, the crossbreeding of humans and Huanat animals, UFO aliens. 450. I even gave the Rananat names of the aliens, later found in government books: Blue, Planet Project, Aramis 3, ADR 3-24SM, page 58, Krill, and Krill. 451, which you check out also Sa'at, Alomar, and others, who were the ones who abducted me at age 9 while I lived in Teaneck, New Jersey, who taught me as much, yet I answered them as to who taught me and who I am as Yaanuwn, Yaanuwn, a Riskian or Murzaku, where I was from, Ilion, how I came into the Raham womb of Mary Abba Dr.York and Al-Hadi Al-Mahdi. No one wanted to accept it as true, so I did what I came to do, set the Sajal record straight. And now that Wu-Sabat is on the move and spreading world over, many are coming to know the truth of who I am, who and what I am, and why I incarnated to them. 452, accept it or not, truth will be truth. It is not important for me as a writer or who I am as one of social status or by birthplace or where I got all the outformation to information. What is most important and very, very important, however, is whether what I teach is actual factual truth or is it falsehood, fact or fiction, right, correct knowledge or ignorance, right or wrong, honesty or deception. 453. Wu-Sabat is something you do not just read, you actually sha'ur, feel it physically working on your inside outward, and you know it's for you. Personally, it's yours. 454. It gives you the power and authority within yourselves that are strong enough to help liberate you from adverse and deceptive forces and make our own people free and equal to each other. 455. Africans Nagaru, you must take time out to kayus, reason for yourself and your well-being, what is duly inscribed in this work, and if you cannot scientifically refute the scientific outformation into information you're reading herein, then you are a reasonable and intelligent person. It is incumbent upon you to accept and adhere to Wu-Sabat as an Awapian and these irrefutable actual facts, and you will be as sensible and positive person, a reader, also listener, who hears truth and knows it's true. 456. You owe it to yourself and those you love, and those you love owe it to you, to your consideration and for your concern. Understand? So we see here Master Teacher setting out, you understand, that purpose, the understanding, you understand, of our extraterrestrial ancestry, you understand, which now, as I say, the world over, we see, you understand, they're revealing, isn't it, to the world all these various different things now about extraterrestrials, which you learned about in many books, or certainly if you've been around long enough, you learned about these in these books now. Now they're trying to find all these ways to reveal, let the world know, listen, we've been hiding all of these, facts from you all of these particular years. How are we going to tell the world the truth about, extraterrestrials and that the fact they've been here for thousands of years, you understand? Because they understand that really and truly, once this happens, their religious control or religion in and of itself, of course, is over. Any questions?
No questions.
Cool. Okay. So, let me just touch on. Is that a good place to start? All right. Let's show this one video, and then when we think about stopping, let's hit 4:30. At this point, this might be a good place to start. But here we go. So.
Estos especímenes no se pueden explicar o observar la imagen. En esta imagen se observaron tres huevos. La comunidad científica que lo desee se acerca a conocer estos cuerpos de forma directa.
El primer estudio que se hizo fue una tomografía computarizada. El segundo estudio que se hizo fueron placas de rayos X simple. Y el tercero fue un estudio de fluoroscopía. En los tres estudios se trató de ver la estructura, el esqueleto de estos cuerpos, y se logró determinar que sí pertenece a un esqueleto único, no armado, de una sola pieza íntegra, que no se observa ninguna especie de armado o de manipulación del cráneo, como lo han dicho.
Respiraron, que comieron, que habitaron en nuestro planeta allá en el desierto. Externa o de armado externo, que por un solo cuerpo, un solo individuo. Un estudio que ya se nos había ocurrido hace algunos años.
So what's interesting about these type of things? I suppose, how are you going to know it's true? So that's what's interesting about it, is how are you going to know it's true? Yeah, because the same source is the one that fed you all these sort of lies and information, and now the same source wants to now switch it all around and then tell you some things are true, and then if it doesn't fit in with the scientific norms or convention, then they're going to deny its truth. You understand? So if another country, i.e., in this instance, not America or NASA, wants to refute it, then which source in the world are you going to believe? So if Mexico say they've found these bodies or whatever, then now NASA wants to dispute it, but NASA's got a coloured history of being factual or telling the truth, particularly with the moon landing. Do you understand? So you can't trust them as a source of truth because they're highly political. Do you understand? So you have to obviously rely on your own sources in and around this, which you've had obviously for years. And this we sort of go into a little bit into maybe how Krill, Aloma, and Sa'at, sort of came into being. Obviously, the beings that Narcissus obviously expressing when he was a teenager in Teaneck, New Jersey, who visited him and helped to develop or formulate this being to house this Ifrit being referred to as Yaanuwn. So I think we'll stop there. I think it's a good place to stop. There's not much more to go, so it'll probably be this combination. There may be somebody else teaching next month, so it's just a case of just finalising this. And actually, what I want to do is explore a bit more this idea of the observable universe. So we'll go into that just to round this class out. And as I say, we'll probably do the quiz as part of that session. But spend a little bit of time on that observable universe. I think it's probably an interesting area that we've touched upon a little bit here today, but will be useful to know about. And then maybe going a little bit into a bit more about these greys, who they are. Obviously, there's different species of greys, some positive, some adverse. So obviously, when our ancestors utilised them, they were effectively, what would be considered to be the equivalent of drones in this regard. So they were scouts sent into environments to see whether environments were suitable to sustain life. So we used them to not risk our own selves in these environments. So that's what they were originally designed for, until they were eventually given their freedom. So we'll probably get into that a little bit as well. Any questions before we close then?
Yes, there is a question from Adorna, and the question is, when are we going to return back to our state of rulership as a race?
So it's a good question. So basically, in terms of the time, at the end of their rulership ended in 6000. So really, when the nines last aligned, so September 9th, 1999, was really the end of their rulership. So the force of nature really were coming more to the fore in what's referred to as a gold or sun cycle, which was the end of the sort of the last 24,000 year cycle, and the incoming of the new 24,000 year cycle. So this was really where we were supposed to be further along than we are at the moment. Obviously, incarceration of the master teacher hasn't helped that. But we were supposed to develop because we were now coming into our own mindset. So the very forces that were holding us back through lies, myth, so forth, or the hold of those monotheistic religion, had been broken really by the impact of the corrections that had been done in the first 30 years, from 1970 down to the year 2000. So we were now ready to receive our own information. Do you understand? Having sort of overcome to some degree the holds of religion. So really and truly, it's our time now. There will be no more of the hybrid RH negative blood type Caucasians by the year 2060. You understand? So their own ancestors, through various different diseases released in the last 24,000 years and more to come. COVID is just part of that, understood, was designed to wipe out that particular strain of Caucasians, been particularly problematic as they would see it as, or they want to wipe out that gene strain. And so it is our time now. What we choose to do with it, a lot of the freedoms that have come, it seems, at least from a media point of view, not necessarily always in reality, that the 2012 situation, which was the rise of the fetal nature transforming the environment to be more conducive to promote female leadership and bring the female back to power again as part of our transition, in a sense, to becoming who we are again. It seems that, you know, that has been counteracted in a sense in the media, where we're seeing that being expressed by a lot of sexual, you know, freedom. So sex ether or sex ether, in terms of that force being promoted, where you see strippers and on the male side, drug dealers becoming the new superheroes. Do you understand? So slap behavior, you know, misuse of the sexual powers, obviously, you know, is what seems to be promoted to the children, and you know, misusing that regard, because they know part of the liberation of women was to some degree has some element to do with sexual liberation, not insofar as hot girl summer or anything to do with that nature, but it's more to do with the fact of not only leadership, but the God of the Bible, the Quran, and so on and so forth, the God of monotheism, remember, sought to suppress the woman's ability to feel pleasure. Do you understand? So the higher aspects of, it's different routes really of sexual development, but the higher aspects of sexual development on the self-preservation side means that women have to have orgasms to develop themselves spiritually. Do you understand? Or must at least once have in a lifetime, you know, experience that in turn to develop spiritually as part of our on both sides, really part of our spiritual development. So if you didn't have an orgasm in this lifetime, you would automatically be predestined to have to reincarnate again to seek to experience that. Do you understand? And so the monotheist religion always suppressed female pleasure or female enjoyment in that regard. And so 2012, as well as a number of other things, was when the force of nature was seeking to restore the woman back to power again. But what we've seen is that the adverse forces, some may refer to as the devil or devils, have taken that, bit like they did with the shifted mind state. Because when 9 ether came in, for the youth, in came sort of 9mm as well. So it was a case of a new mindset to rebel against the hold or the status quo of what the Council of the Caucasians had upon us. And in a similar vein, 2012 was a shift in the sand, but what it symbolized was a shift in rising female power. But which is also some element of sexual development, to be able to experience pleasure through the sexual process again. Because, as I said, was made, penetration can be pain, not pleasure. Meaning to say that obviously if the sexual experience is so heavily male art, where it was only denoted for male pleasure, then it hinders the woman's spiritual powers that are activated through experiencing orgasm. Both of us raise up in actuality when it's done, used properly and correctly, not in any sort of perverted way. But the myth is, or the stereotype or monotype is, that men fall asleep after sex. When both male and females after orgasm, it connects them to the sort of wider universe, if people sort of pay attention and focus there. You understand? Focus their mind after energy. You're spiritually lifted after the process of doing crazy stuff. But there's roots, isn't it? There's roots where it's more adverse. People are seeking pleasure closer to death. That is the more Caucasian end of things, where the men seek to play fast and loose, do more wild stuff, taking it closer to the death side of things, when in actuality ours was more on a self-preservation, taking us more into the healing end and higher development. So we're not into the sort of stretching the sort of pain equals pleasure end of that, but more the higher end, which means partners can heal each other when they develop their sexual practice. So, as I say, it's been co-opted, like hip hop was co-opted, and we're seeing it be misused. Where the sort of focus is on, as I say, strippers and drug dealers are the new superheroes. So we have to regain that back, and women have to regain that back, and manifest, which they are doing, but they have to manifest the sacred feminine attributes and teach this doctrine not only to the world, but to other sisters, to teach them what it's really about. It's not about hot girl summer. That's of a certain people pushing that agenda because they want to destroy, the royal genes of the Nagaru females, to stop, let's say, supreme beings being born, to stop the incoming, because every child born is a potential messiah, which is a plural or golden child, obviously coming through or to develop to help the solutions that people are suffering from or facing. So they have their own agenda. We have to counter it, by putting the truth out there of the genetic kiss information, for example, and all these things, so females and males know that the nine, i.e. the mind, must rule over our sexual powers and expression if we are to achieve liberation, because the more sexual power is expressed inadvertently, obviously women lose genetically in the sexual experience, and men lose out physically in the sexual experience. And if we're expressing those powers too much or too heavily, obviously it can lead to our spiritual death. So the nine must rule over the mind. So it is our time, in answer to your question, and the forces of nature are kicking in. It's just because we are in and around and in these environments, of course, that we act as a protection for certain adverse forces, because we are souls in those environments. So if he wasn't here, then maybe certain things would happen a lot quicker and faster. This is why they attack teachers who talk about going back to Africa, or returning from the West, maybe to the Caribbean islands or whatever the case may be, away from them. That's who they attack more. Any other questions?
No other questions.
Okay, cool. All right, so I think we'll stop there for today. Thank everybody for joining us for today's class. So we'll finish it off next month, but there may be some other sessions as well on by other student teachers as they start to come on board during this year. So check out the website, www. All the W's, United Sabians Worldwide.com, and our next class is going to be in 2 weeks' time, which I believe is the 4th, of March. Just checking the calendar. It's working. 2 weeks' time. Yeah, it's the 3rd of March. Yeah, so back again, 3rd of March. This class will be on our YouTube channel probably over the next week or so. So check that out if you want some more details on the topics being discussed today. Also on the website, if you do want some of the books, etc., then check out your local All Eyes in Egypt store or order directly from the website. A lot of the new stuff, so a lot of the old stuff is being reprinted as well, so it's becoming available once again, and so we will in the future make that available for you, so it's easy for you to get if you want to learn and read more about the topics that we're teaching today and do more wider study. So appreciate everybody's attendance today, both on Zoom and on Facebook Live. We will speak to you and see you soon. Stay safe all. Take care.